energy. Ain't nobody wanna step to me. If you wanna bring that drama, I'll whoop that ass like Michael Obama. Yeah, I got that big D energy. Ain't nobody wanna step to me. And if you really wanna bring that drama, I'll whoop that ass like Michael Obama.
No, Michelle is a trans.
I'm sorry, she's a what?
Transgender. We all know.
Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh. It's okay.
Like a llama. I whip that thing out like Michael Obama. I got that energy. Nobody wanna step to me. And if you really wanna bring that drama, I whip that ass like Michael Obama. I'm a girl, 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 I'm a whip the thing out like Michael Obama. I got that big, big energy. Ain't nobody wanna step back me. And if you really wanna bring that drama, I whip that ass like Michael Obama. Ain't got that clip, bitch. Hung like a llama.
Can you save us, Britney Spears? Can we be saved? God, why is Satan controlling the universe?
The world we used to think we knew is constantly exposing woo. Our possibilities come true. So what we do is call out to the good guys, good guys. Witches, widows, MAGA, mystics, entertaining cunnilinguist good guys. The forum of the quorum needs a secretive society to advance our philosophies intentionally, magically good guys. Conspiracy, sex, culture, makings, it's okay to change your thinking. Good guys, good guys, good guys, good guys. The world we used to think we knew is constantly exposing woo. Our possibilities come true. So what we do is call out to the good guys, good guys. Witches, widows, MAGA, mystics, entertaining cunnilinguist good guys. The forum of the quorum needs a secretive society to advance our philosophies intentionally, magically good guys. Conspiracy, sex, culture, makings, it's okay to change your thinking. Good guys, good guys, good guys, good guys.
Brap, brap. Big up yourselves. Happy Friday night and welcome to another episode of the Secret Society of Good Guys. If you're just getting here, hit the thumbs up and make sure you follow us on Rumble and X. Layla and Abbie will be here momentarily. They are indisposed in the moment, and we will see why when they get here and judge them harshly. But until then, it's me and Thomas, the Paranoid American. How are you?
I'm good. You're gonna have to just deal with us two for a little bit. But we were already getting into an interesting conversation, so let's just jump right back into right where we stopped off, and that's like ways that you've been fired from a job. And there's a lot of people that have never been fired, so I think it's personally I think it's an interesting experience. I think everyone should be fired from at least one job to humble you. Maybe three, maybe five, maybe even more than that. Depends on how much you jump around professions and how high your tolerance for pain and punishment kind of is, right?
I got fired from a job today, you guys. I've never been fired before.
Welcome to the club. It's actually it's liberating in a few ways.
It's so great. I didn't want to ever go back anyway. I'm so excited. Like things are going away in my life. I'm gonna be Dustin Stockton's personal executive assistant and then also producing three pretty rad podcasts. And so I feel like the 3D has been trying to kick me out of it for a while. And I was gonna just call in sick today because after I got really good news, I'm like, "Ugh, I can't even tolerate 3Ding and
You wanna
LARPing."
ruin, like, the high that you're on from getting good news, right?
Yeah, and so I was like, "Oh," and I didn't need it. I didn't need to go in there for any reason and play that game, and it was freezing outside, and so it was hours and hours before I had to be there, and I don't work alone. I'm a server in a place. It would be easy, you know, and so
Right.
they're like they didn't check it for hours, and then they wrote, "Don't ever come back," and they wrote an exclamation point. I almost wanna send because I was like I really wrote back, "Yikes." I
Did you
was
use an
like
exclamation mark too?
yeah, or I wrote I'll even tell you exactly what I did. This is so silly, but it's so funny. I feel like something is freeing about it. I feel like the 3D was just trying to get rid of me. Um, I was like, "Oh, wait, do I not have it anymore?" Oh, yeah, I screenshotted it like a little weirdo because
Yikes.
I made myself yeah, I had to send it to my wife. I put, "Yikes, okie dokie. Have a great night. Hope we can be friends out of work."
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly, that's much better than most people also handle the firing aspect. Although that one's kinda tame, right? You called out and they were like, "Just don't bother coming back in," which is
And then
that
yeah,
seems
and then
pretty
the guy who
typical for
wrote me
service
that,
industry.
he was such a puss. He kind of went to he said, "Oh, that was just, from the owner." Like, I don't feel that harsh about like, I didn't feel exclamation point. That was from the owner.
Don't kill the messenger, Chaney.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and so I just wrote back, "It was never gonna work. I was the only one in that building not scared of him." So then it's like, here's a little passive aggressive on your lap, but have a good life. I really do wish people well. I really don't have tons of time, but I'm so it was weird how I was like, "Oh, I like it made me clutch my pearls." But so you say you've been fired before?
Well, the big one was maybe the military, but that was a long drawn out process. So the
I would
one
be
that was
so scared.
more what's that?
Like you have this like I don't know if you I am such a nervous Nelly. Like I would have been so scared to get in trouble in the military. Like I'm such
I
a
mean,
goody
yeah, I
goody.
guess. I think it was less like I mean, I'm not gonna call myself like American hero or anything, like all the bravery that I had by getting kicked out of the military. It was more about just being really young. I was still like 19 basically when I started getting into trouble. But anyways, that's a story for a different time. The I guess more appropriate firing story is I worked, and I guess this was actually right after I left the military. I needed a job in order to pay rent. I was living the rest of the houses were like Section 8, but I was in Section 8. So I actually still had to like it wasn't too much though. But I got a job at Kinko's cuz when I was in high school, I had worked there for like 3 or 4 years. So I had a little bit of background. It was a really easy thing to slip into, and I freaking loved it, especially in a huge city cuz this was in 2003 or 4, and I worked in one of the biggest ones in San Antonio, and I did the overnight shift. I worked from basically 11 p.m. until 11 a.m. or sometimes 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. So I got, and they stayed open 24/7. They had free phones you could use, free bathrooms. All of this spells disaster for a huge place that's open in the middle of a huge city in the middle of the night because anyone can just come in and like use the free stuff. And people are also a lot of cool things, but making like weird signs and show club posters and people that want to make CDs and poster like all kinds of cool stuff. So it was a fun job. But it was insane because it's massive and there's all these conventions going on. Anyway, long story short, I was just like printing out probably tens of thousands of show flyers and comics and just like, my own stuff. My friends would come in and they would, always find something wrong with their copies, so they would get them all for free, of course, every time. So that was kind of like itching on them, but no one else could do the output that I could because I was like super nerd. So if one of the huge machines went down, I could fix it without calling a technician, which would cost the company like $700 plus they're down for a couple hours. So I kind of figured out how to be like the all-in-one, did all the different special services so you could just leave me alone for all night. But part of that too is that all the other stores would call up and they would try to like pawn their work off on you. And Kinko's had this really stupid ass initiative, and it was called like always say yes, and they started putting one of those stupid campaigns out, like commercials and radio ads, and it's like, Kinko's will always say yes, you know what I mean? And they had these stupid mystery shoppers, and they would call up with the most like, we want to get 50,000 of these color pamphlets, all spiral bound. We're gonna drop it off tonight at around midnight. Can you get it done by 5 a.m.? Like stupid stuff like that. And I just said no to the mystery shopper one time, and it lost my boss some like monthly bonus. So in retaliation for that alone, he kind of just like gave me the axe. But I didn't do anything grand on the way out, and honestly, I think I made out better because we got so much free services from that place for making free signs and show posters, and it was almost just like a side hustle. They were paying my rent, but also making sure that we could produce as many CDs, DVDs, posters as we wanted.
That I've quit jobs. I'm a pretty great employee. And I kind of felt like usually energetically I grow on people, and it's like I never think people are going to like me off the bat, but I know I'm going to get along with like 99% of people like in the long haul. But I felt like it's weird when I'm like, "Ooh, that guy doesn't like me." Like where you could just tell there's nothing I can do here. This guy does not like me.
It's interesting because that was the last job I ever had that was like service related, like where you had to be nice to somebody. And ever since then, every job I've had, it works better if like people don't mess with you. Even at Disney, it was again like specialist. So we would just like 2 or 3 people usually tucked away in some dark studio room, just cranking at it. And like we would be specialists, so we would talk with each other, but there was no outside interaction from anyone. As long as we got the stuff done and it looked good, there was kind of hands off. And I've been able to kind of like thrive in that environment. But the second that there's like someone over the shoulder or someone that you got to report to and get feedback constantly, I've been lucky enough to avoid all of that basically since that last service industry job. It was like over 20 years ago.
I've had all sorts. I've gotten the service. I've been pretty lucky that in my service industry roles, I've mostly just bartended. I've never really had to work retail. It's rare I'm a server usually. So it's usually the amount of customer service I ever have to give a fuck is so rare. Like
Well,
I'm
let's say you're taking
your
an extended
priest.
break from that. What's the like, is there anything that you're gonna miss from that job or not really
No,
at all?
not
Nothing
even.
at
I'll
all.
forget I worked there. Like, it will be one of
Nice.
those places that I'm like, "Remember when I worked at that
Yeah.
place?" Like, I've gone through some places. I actually have magnets on the side of my fridge because I have this whole thing that I'm like, "No, never gonna wear a name tag. That's not my scene." So any job that I ever and then when I marketed for I had to have a name tag. You don't think about it, but like medical marketing, you're in and out of offices and it like you have some kind of uh credentials that you're walking around the hospital with. So you have this like badge on all the time. So I have all the magnets that I had as different marketing companies that have my name on them on the side of my fridge.
I've got one hanging up somewhere, yeah. A
I just
couple of 'em.
and real quick, shout out to Leah. Thank you so much. I'm doing really okay. I appreciate it so much. I didn't ever need to go back to that job again after today. Like, so it was such a it was such a blessing that I was like, "Yay." I mean, I'm only scheduled tomorrow, but then I would have been a goody goody and been like, "Let me give you my 2 weeks notice." You know, the thing you do, but I don't really care.
Screw all that.
Yeah.
It's more fun to just cut it off, just pinch it off now and don't drag it out for 2 weeks. Don't be, like,
Yeah,
wiping your ass for 2 weeks over here. It's not a fun process.
no, no, so done and done, and I just it's 2025, I just feel like I can't stop winning.
Right. Well, again, like if there were a conspiracy theory Bitcoin, like we've been investing in it for the last decade or so, and this is kind of when it's going to explode. Maybe alongside the crypto, but even outside the crypto market, I mean, the JFK and RFK and MLK, there's going to be a whole new wave of normies that never really cared before that are now going to be introduced to this because it's going to be an official thing. It's going to take it out of the fringe, which it sort of died in maybe the mid 90s with all the X-Files and ubiquitous sort of conspiracy stuff, and then maybe QAnon theories with the JFK Jr. stuff, that might have like further pushed it out to the outskirts, but now it's coming back into the fold, and there's going to be normies on just searching podcasts and searching YouTube looking for MLK decode, RFK decode, you know, like help me understand these 3,000 declassified documents and what parts do I care. But I feel like that's just going to be a new resurgence, because then the next thing's going to be like, okay, what about the Las Vegas thing? What about the Crooks thing? Let's start digging down now that we've kind of cleared some of the old stuff off the table, right? Like if we're cleaning out a fridge right now, we just threw out the meatloaf from like 60 years ago,
Yeah.
right?
And at first I was like, okay, this is cool. Can we get something declassed from when we were actually alive? But if
You got away. I mean, I'm surprised that it's less than 100 years. I would have been, I mean, they said 50 originally, right? That never happened.
But I think Jimmy Carter and George Bush Sr. lived longer than they thought they were gonna.
1,000,000%. That's exactly. And honestly, I think that the Bush dynasty, it might not have been certain that there was going to be a continuation of it. It might have just ended with George Bush Sr., and they would have faded back into just running the CIA and the shadow government from behind the scenes instead of being both. Right? They get to be on both sides of the shadow coin. So. I think that that's probably also one of the main reasons that maybe some get lost. Maybe there's some versions they can't find the version that's not redacted. Like who knows what's under that black bar? We'll never know.
Yeah, well, that's another thing that I was thinking, like, if we're about to, and we know how quick everybody's woken up to every single thing and how it just like is a snowball that almost is, it's like legit a great awakening. And so I was thinking, okay, if you are about to introduce every normie in the world, you got to start with some key things and some key players. And so these three are actually the perfect place to start. It's like you're going to meet the CIA. Oh, hold on. We have a doorbell, honey.
Bing, 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 bing.
Ding, ding, ding.
We do need like a Pee Wee Herman doorbell.
I like that idea.
Yay.
So there's just
Beautiful.
3 of us, huh?
For now, Layla is running late. She had to do stuff. What I gather, and I could be wrong, that she was holding her cool because she had to do a whole bunch of stuff she wasn't planning on doing. And she was letting us know that she was going to be late. So when she gets here, she might be like, yo, and then have a fun tale for us. But she is coming. But you look wonderful.
Well, thank you. I got ready in like 5 minutes because I literally had somebody just show up at my house, and you just can't be rude when you have your first visitor and be like, dude, I'm about to podcast, so I need you to leave. So,
Did he bring you a baked good?
huh?
Did he bring you a baked good?
No, she brought me one of her kids and dropped her off. So,
No.
Oh, I was going to say, like, it's
one of those neighborhoods.
Yeah, you didn't
Yeah.
get a gift or a text that they're coming over?
no.
Is that the fire you threw him into behind you?
Yeah, pretty much.
So here's our offering to you.
Oh, that's right.
Uh-oh. Is this real life? Look at what somebody just said. Layla's in the middle of a Twitter beef.
Nice. That's actually what she's caught up in right now.
Yeah, that's what we're like. Layla's running late. She's like, yo, fuck that. Blah, 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 blah. Like,
Lost track of time.
yeah. Well, she did tell me she was going to be late. So whoever Layla's fighting with on Twitter, you're on notice.
Abbie, have you ever been fired from a job?
I don't think so. No, I
Pretty
mean,
close
unless you
to?
count no call, no shows, but then you like when you do that, you pretty
just
much quit.
It's
Yeah,
like you're like,
so-
I quit, and somebody's like, well, you're fired. And you're like,
You're like-
but I just quit.
Yeah, I didn't come for a reason. So yeah.
That's kind of how I felt today a little bit. It was like they released me of like a letter and having to do, they released me of a Southern goodbye. Just standing in the doorway with clothes on my hip or a kid, just talking for 20 minutes, letting flies in. They released me of my normal ways and let me Irish goodbye, where I say, do you guys want a drink? I'm going to go to the bathroom. And then you never see me again that night.
Have you been fired, Thomas?
Yeah, I was just saying I got fired from Kinko's for not saying yes to some stupid mystery shopper job that was never even a real job to begin with. I could have said yes, and I would have had a job, but also I could have said yes and would have been the absolute worst night of my life. And that was pretty much the whole job. Every single job overnight was always going to be some massive headache. So I didn't really cry too much, but I did have to move out of Texas after that. So
Yeah, you couldn't afford it anymore, or what?
it was, I mean, it was a sign, right? It was like one of those things. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
okay, universe is telling
Closure.
me it's time to move on. This is not, you're not gonna like live the rest of your career working at Kinko's making copies for weird like pre-OnlyFans like prostitutes at 3 a.m. So
True. That is definitely a sign.
I could have. Some people made it their careers, but I wanted to do different stuff
You
by that
wanted to do
point.
something more than that, I'm
And
sure.
it was a interesting way because I was able to leapfrog it because I got to meet a lot of the guys that were throwing on huge promotional events because they would come in and have to get all their flyers and everything made last second. So I'd be schmoozing them up again, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. There's nothing else going on. So ended up making all sorts of good contacts and pretty much just did contract work for a lot of those guys afterwards. Set up an illicit business called Hollywood Video where I went by a nickname Lex for the longest, for about 2 years. I went by the name Lex for anyone that I was selling these bootleg videos to. We would go up inside of a Walmart and look for people digging through like the $4 movie deal bins and everything. And she'd be like, "Hey kid, you want to see Spider-Man 2?" You know what I mean? We would just have like a huge trunk full of these DVDs. We would go and hang out outside of like Chuck E. Cheese and you'd wait for a family to be coming out. And whatever the latest movie is, you guys want to see Hulk? And the kids start screaming. The parents would give you this look like, "You son of a," and yeah, so that was an awesome job for a couple years until one of my friends got pulled over with like a huge like Yukon full of these
Oh,
DVDs. And when the cops saw what they had, they were expecting drugs, right? It wasn't that night. It was like a Wednesday, not Thursday. But so they got the DVD truck, and it turned into like a federal case. And I was like, okay, now I'm officially out of Texas. We're out of here. But it was cool because I would get phone calls, people asking for Lex all the time. But I knew that the reason that I used that name is because I knew that if someone asked for that name, they wanted movies.
what
Versus
they
if they
wanted.
asked for another
Yeah.
name, they wanted something else that I
Drugs.
won't get into.
Who I won't get into, like
The
extra
other illicit thing.
anchovies on the
Yeah,
pizza.
every name had like a
Thomas was like
different
lover
thing that
boy.
you could, yeah.
It doesn't surprise me. Like, Thomas has got to have the systems in place. You're freaking genius. So,
It was a military thing because in the military you'd go by your last name, which became like a new name because you knew that if you ever heard someone say your last name to identify you, it like snapped you into this other mode. It was like a code word. So I was just like, oh, that's convenient. So I just kind of extended that. Like when your parents, right? If your parents ever use all three of your names, you know that it's like time to snap into a different
bad.
mentality. It's just,
Yep,
it's an NLP anchor.
it is. Absolutely.
I feel like it's so weird how kids are called to things, and it's like really just being an adult is accepting the brainwash of the thing that everybody tells you you're crazy if you keep wanting to do that thing. It's like a weird, like eventually you're broken and you're like, all right, I just have 10 more years and then I can fuck off.
Yeah, I can
Like,
die.
it's such a weird, like something in my, I don't know. I have this like very little kid mentality with what I feel like is gonna play out for everyone. It makes me giddy. Like I feel like we're all going to Disney World and I'm so excited. Like, but I also am anxious, like almost like deer energy. Like I feel like something's not quite right. Like to me, something seems a little too quiet. Like a little too, I know we have the LA fires, but it just seems like no
Yeah.
UFOs. We still have drones all over New Jersey. Somebody was writing in the Project Chaney chat.
See, I think that's why we're in the theme park right now, right? We're in Disney World. Like people get hurt and get sick and die at Disney World. Like we're kind of there right now. Some people go there and don't have any fun. right? That used to be one of my favorite things when I could go into the park itself for free just whenever I wanted to because I had like the special pass. But we would go like watching for families that brought their kids there from clearly the other side of the country, but are just yelling at them. Like the whole
Wow.
family spends like $5,000 and that takes the entire summer vacation. And then they're just like, we're gonna go back home. We're gonna go back in the car. Like it just turned into like a thing that you could kind of spot them. We would play like bingo, like sad family bingo at Disney.
That's like spot the white person in a Walmart in San Diego.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit like that.
Have you guys been keeping up on everything this week? There's so
I know
much
the
going on.
highlights, but not a lot of the details yet. Mostly the JFK, RFK, MLK promises, right? 15
Oh yeah, so that's
days
when you got
for-
here, Abbie. We were just talking about that.
Okay.
What are the
Yeah.
details? Like, there's a certain timeline they got, 15 days and like 40 days or something.
But do you think it's all gonna be redacted though?
Yeah, of course.
So
I don't
it's like
know.
still is gonna be like, huh? Well, there you go.
I mean, the last article I was reading on it, it says that like a majority of the papers had already been released, and there's just a small like number of like 3,000 papers that haven't been released yet, specific to the JFK and similar with RFK and MLK, and that those last 3,000 and change are the ones that are going to get released this time, and that's going to make it so that officially everything's out in the open. I just don't know how much information you could fit on 3,000 pages. It would tie up every single loose end of the JFK assassination. On top of that, we've seen what declassified papers from the CIA look like.
Yeah.
You look through the MK Ultra papers. I mean, half of them are just black
Redacted.
toner, right?
Yep.
And then
Yeah.
also, I mean, I'm imagining right now, at this exact moment, Wolf of Wall Street style, there's just rooms full of people and shredders just going to town. Like
Yeah.
all like everyone that was there for the J6 as the agent provocateurs, they are now just like shredding papers.
I've heard rumors, and I don't know if this is true or not. Maybe we have an amazing audience member that'll watch us at some point, that there's been fences around some of the federal buildings the entire time Biden was in office, like the IRS, the FBI, the Hoover building. Like,
Well, there was for a while around the White House, wasn't there? Which I
yeah,
thought
it's almost
was
like they
Yeah.
were a crime
bizarre.
scene.
Yeah.
It's almost like something else. I don't know. I think even watching Trump with that thing, people were like, "Oh, look, I did see the digital ID thing where he's like, "Oh, if you want help, you have to have voter ID," which is totally different, I think. But we're all kind of under a digital ID thing, right?
Yeah.
Whether
Like
you want
every
it or
state.
not, at this point, yeah, like we've
Yeah.
talked about this before, but your heat signature and your gait and things that you've got no control over can fingerprint you at this point. So
But don't
whether you
our
even have a
driver's
phone or not.
license,
The real IDs.
aren't they all federal IDs now? Or at least the state of
Most
Florida, I
states
think.
are. If you got one in the last like 10 years, it's already a real ID. Yeah.
And then
Oklahoma's not
everybody in
required.
the
You can get it if you
military.
want to, but you don't have to. So
I think passport counts as it though now.
Passport has an real ID
Yeah.
in it. Anyone with a passport and anyone with a military ID has a real ID in it.
But what is a real ID versus
It's
a fake
anyone that
ID
has a
anyway?
credit card with a chip. I think it's any quarter. It's any dollar bill.
It's anywhere
like
you've ever sneezed. Yeah.
But I agree with if whatever your philosophy is on voting or not, I think if you're to vote, you should have some form of identification to vote.
Yeah, that's what Oklahoma makes you, and I do appreciate that. I think that
That's
you
terrorist
should.
talk right there.
Ooh.
Well, you know what? All the terrorists got pardoned this week. That's another great thing is that the January 6th insurrectionists and Ross Ulbricht, they all got pardoned this week. And I think that was pretty fucking like it made me cry when Ross got out. Like all the J6ers and seeing each of their stories separately, that I can't imagine, because depending on how liberal their state, some of them were kept in solitary confinement for the whole time. And their family called and said, my aunt was at January 6th. My dad was at January 6th. They all got
So they're
goaded.
like the people turning in Nazis.
Yeah, and
Or
so
the
the
not, yeah, turning on the Jews.
Yep,
and
watch out, Elon. You hear that? We're coming for
I
you.
know that was
From both
totally Elon.
oh, we are
You're
totally
both
going to
those
talk about
things.
that too.
Yeah.
We're totally going to talk about that too. But it's it really made me like happy tears. Just because it's like some of the people are like a person away, you know, of like how close it was to my real life. But then everybody that went there that day lost so much that day. But nobody lost as much as those people that had to stay inside those fucking prisons for years without their habeas corpus, which is wild to me. And then Ross, the creator of the Silk Road, which if you don't know what that is, everybody like usually it's everyone's like, oh, you can get whatever you want. It's the black, you know, the dark web. You can get drugs on there and blah blah blah. But
I buy
really,
people.
yeah, yeah, you could get adrenochrome on there. But really, the biggest thing about Ross that the government hated is that he created a decentralized platform away from them. In a way, he was like this teeny tiny version of John McAfee. So it was just like super touching that he got out after like 10 or 11
He's
years.
like, I mean, maybe a bad representation, but he's kind of like the college drug dealer mixed with an Elon Musk, and he kind of got taken out around that same age group. Like in terms of like he's the cool guy. He's like a cool rich Bitcoin billionaire, right? And he also had the benefit of not like fumbling any of his coins, I assume, and he's also kind of got the backing of all these people that have so much Bitcoin that money is now an abstract concept. It's no longer a number that they even have to keep track of. It's a thing that's an infinite resource, and I feel that he's in good graces with those peoples. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what his story arc contains because
I feel like he went
he's been on
in,
ice.
and let's say I don't know the exact numbers, you guys, but I feel like it's absurd like this. He went into prison and he had like uh 70,000 or 100,000 in Bitcoin, and he got out and he has like 30 million or 30 billion
Oh
dollars.
It's
wow.
Like
probably
it
way
makes
more
my
than that.
head explode. Like it's some amount of money that whatever the jump was from the two just made my head make us like.
Well, what's the famous pizza? The famous Bitcoin pizza was like 20,000 Bitcoin or something that someone paid for a pizza. And if whoever received that had just still be sitting on it now, what would 20,000 Bitcoin look like, right?
Oh my gosh. Somewhere there is that pizza delivery driver. He's like, I could have been a venture capitalist.
Yeah, no, well, yeah, who knows if he's even still around at this point.
It's so curious. Did you hear about Georgia kind of doing their own cryptocurrency? Like they're doing their own state government efficiency, like to keep all their personal state government on the
Is
blockchain?
how it starts, man. Everything's gonna be a Disney dollar at some point. You're gonna have Coca-Cola dollars and Pepsi dollars and Dow dollars, and it's all just gonna be and Target dollar. Like they kind of do that now. If you've got to sign up for one of those customer loyalty programs or you earn points, everyone is already used to this a little bit, so it's not going to be hard to transition people into it.
Have you ever heard of their like permanent financial dividends from I might be saying that wrong, but I think they're PFDs
No,
from Alaska, and it's what they all get paid out
Yeah.
because they're you know,
Alaskan
a
citizens.
person that's
Yeah.
an Alaskan, so they get paid out in the commodity of the oil of their state. And so let's say this year they're getting back $1,700 a piece, but most of their oil's been capped and on reserved and not used and stuff. So that would be a low number for them. There was a time they were getting like 5 grand a piece or whatever. But if that were to happen, I think there's a reason that Donald Trump's saying drill baby drill over and over again and repeating the words of Sarah Palin, because we're all about to get.
blessed be her name.
I know. I kind of like Sarah Palin's shooting wolves. That's the most anti-Nazi shit I have ever heard in my life.
I don't think I could ever be sold on Sarah Palin. I think she represents the absolute worst of this, of like weird fake Tea Party movement thing. Come on, like next to freaking Patch McCain, you know what I mean?
I feel like Sarah Palin shooting wolves out of the helicopters is boss. Like that, the
Right.
Nazis released wolves during to take away because they were the only competitors with humans. So they would release wolves into all the areas that me and you might live off the land. So all of a sudden we had competition that we couldn't compete with in the wintertime. So then we'd starve. So it was like a war tactic. So there was a reason. Like I just think there's other reasons for things, but we just don't necessarily. It's sometimes I don't know. I think everybody has a confirmation bias a little bit, and it we are so traumatized, we wouldn't know what it felt like to get back anything that was taken from us. Like it's never happened before. But when Bush and Obama bailed out all those businesses, I remember that they said if you added all that up, every man, woman, and child in America could have $222,000 apiece. And that was back then
Nah.
with my Bitcoin. So that was back then with my Bitcoin. And I just keep thinking like 99% of the world's wealth, we've been told this, 99% of the world's wealth is controlled by 1%. And so I just feel like in my own personal life, like as above, so below type shit, as within, so without, I've been getting by on fucking peanuts. Like I have lived a high life, no pun intended, where I've had all the fanciest things and gotten to just buy what I want. And I've had like, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay for this medical bill? How am I going to pay for this and rent? Like I've had both sides of the thing. And so I just feel like we're like so traumatized. We wouldn't know even we don't even, we're, but it's on purpose. We're all
Oh, yeah.
brainwashed.
Well, I think that a minority has to contain all the world's wealth because the scarcity is what makes wealth matter to begin with. If everyone has the exact same amount of money, if every person on the planet had the equivalent of like, $2 million or $20 million, it just sort of ceases to matter. We could all just burn all of our money and it would kind of be the same thing. It would only matter if you can figure out a way to fleece people from their money and then pool it in a way that now you've got power over them, right? Because if everyone's balanced, then now there's no such thing as like capital power, like financial power.
That's where inflation comes in, because like if we all would have gotten $220,000, I mean, how much would a toilet paper go up to?
But even if we were in a vacuum where like inflation was gone, if it was all gold, but there would still be some sort of industry or some sort of a scam that would be set up to make sure that they get more than anyone else does. And now all of a sudden the price of gold would go up in that system too. But once you release it back to everyone, the value would drop again because now everyone's got easy access to it. So like 1% of the population owning all of the wealth is what wealth is, like at least financial wealth.
But it's like it's a commodity grab and a land grab on the idea of wealth. So they want all the real commodities while they fill us with the numbers. And so we all, whatever your state is, whether it's wood or iron or I don't know, citrus. I don't know what your state commodity is, but your state makes something that the rest of the world craves. And that matters. And so even petrol, like we're on this reserve, this fake thing. And I would argue that a whole reason that we could run on oil forever is because it's not a finite resource. And so when everyone's like, oh, we really need to worry about solar and we really need to worry about wind. What about if I told you oil wasn't finite ever? It's not from dinosaurs and it replenishes in the earth all the time. And you just have to retap that well and then you pump it again.
Well, I mean, or even if we needed to figure out an alternative, the only thing stopping us is just how cheap and plentiful oil is, right? It's to have a debate over whether it's scarce or not, whether it's running out. It none of that even matters because it is so absolutely dirt cheap that there's nothing else that can really compare to it. That and coal, right? The worst things are just so absolutely in abundance that there's really no incentive to do anything but those things.
I don't feel like coal's bad. I feel like it got a bad rap. To me, coal is if we were to ever have giant fauna, it was because we gave them tons of what they needed. And so when everyone's like, "Oh, look at all that stuff burning off at that power plant." Like I don't think it's
Imagine
necessarily
too.
bad.
I don't know how. We need like an actual scientist on here, but imagine if they could harness the power given off by like the LA fires, right? That's essentially not much different than a boiler that they would use to power a ship or to burn coal. It's just a matter of being able to capture that heat somehow and repurpose it into something that we could use. Imagine if that like that could be an entire initiative instead of figuring out how to drill or instead of figuring out how to do some other sort of solar panel extraction. How do we harness, natural disasters and turn them into good things? And I'm not saying that like we need to drop what we're doing and do that. I'm not one of those kind of crusaders. All I'm saying is that right now that's money on the table. And at some point in the future, when if there is any sort of legit energy scarcity, someone will figure that out. Someone's gonna have to figure out how to like literally profit off of some kind of major disaster like that.
I like if you could figure out a way to where we put something big over a volcano, so every time steam comes out, it's just like free energy.
That's where I would get more scared because now there's an incentive to force volcanoes to erupt more often. And maybe that's where I might draw the line. Like I wouldn't call it climate change, but telling volcanoes to just erupt all the time, I feel like that would throw off some sort of balance. Maybe not.
But
Maybe
see, I
that
feel
makes me a
like
fear monger.
because in Nevada, there's quite a few geothermal power plants because they just have like natural, you know, hot springs just pop up out of nowhere. So
Right, they
like
just use
geysers and
like
stuff.
steam
So
essentially. They can capture
yeah,
the pressurized steam and
yeah.
convert that.
And so some places do use well, it's not a natural disaster, but in a sense it is. It's like,
Or the ionosphere, or the, free energy in the
yeah,
That one
ionosphere.
scares me a little
that'd be
bit
great.
too, the ionosphere one, just
I like it.
because the implication there is that anyone would have access to it. So then it just has to become this heavily regulated thing. Like you can't have access to the ionosphere. Kind of like FAA has rules now. If you fly a drone above a certain area and there's an airport within X number of miles, now all of a sudden federal agents might show up and start asking questions. Something similar probably about the ionosphere. We're like, oh, we saw someone tapping into it right over your house. Like now we're here asking questions about it.
Like, are you harnessing free energy? I don't
Well,
know.
Tesla's blowing up power plants by doing that.
Well, wasn't that
Allegedly.
all propaganda? He was killing elephants
No,
and
no, no. Well,
blowing up power
that one
plants?
was his competition, right? That was Edison, I think, that was talking about no, but this one really happened. This one was when Tesla put together Wardenclyffe Tower, and he had these massive like coils, and he was trying to literally tap into the ionosphere. And I guess it worked in some cases, but what happened is that all the energy that came back went backwards back into the power plant and blew up all their crap. So now, like, no one gets power because he tapped it so much energy, there was nothing to do with it, right? So it just like caused devastation. I think that was towards the end of his career, doing these massive scale energy, and that was before J.P. Morgan pulled the plug and killed his last financier, uh, Jacob Astor. Yeah, this thing right here caused blackouts constantly. And depends on what kind of research you're doing. But the interesting ones I found isn't that he was drawing too much power and causing the different power plants to shut down. It was that he was like get on this feedback loop. He was providing them way more power than anyone knew how to even deal with. They couldn't resist it.
They
They
couldn't
couldn't
handle it.
store capacitors, nothing. It just blew things up anytime he started actually tapping in the ionosphere, which sort of proved what he was trying to do. Like we were able to tap so much energy, we didn't even know what to do with it.
That's what I feel like. There's so much energy, we don't even need it all. It's like, and to me, with magnets, if you could start something, then magnets should be able to make it go in perpetuity. Like, just is that the right word? Go forever.
Like a perpetual motion machine.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, honestly, if there were a way to tap into the ionosphere, that doesn't degrade, like if to make it crude, if you had like a metal wire that was part of the process, as long as that thing doesn't oxidize and break down over time, you essentially now do have the capability but you wouldn't really need perpetual motion machine.
Look at with Layla, she's gonna make all of us. Should we go look and see what's going on
Yeah,
Twitter
let's
Live?
like live stream the
Yeah,
Twitter now.
let's see if I can figure this out. This is so funny. You know what? This is kind of a funny story, depending on how much, and Abbie can tell it while I look up. Somebody said, nobody is ever gonna win an argument with Layla. Abbie, you got to witness somebody win an argument with Layla.
I did. It was intense. I'm in the back seat, and there's Chaney in the passenger seat, and Layla in the driving, and they were arguing over January 6th. Like, I knew you then. I knew you before you went. No, you did not. I know this because of XYZ. And oh man, it got heated. It was like, I was like, whoa, damn. Like, I cannot believe they're doing this right now. Like, it was loud.
See, that sounds like the kind of argument that I would be invested in, because there sounds like there's an objective truth there. It's not just opinions going back and forth, which is a
No.
rare thing to get into an argument over.
No,
was
they both remembered events differently, but Chaney was able to prove her point, and it was, I don't
The
know.
funniest part with it is, like, Layla, what I will say is, if you mess with the bull, you get the horns. But the second her brain clicked me being right, she was like, "Oh, yeah, you're right." And we just
Yeah.
fucking moved on. Like,
Yeah. It was just done.
it was like a twister, how a twister just goes away, and you're
I
like,
was like,
that
what
was just
happened?
devastation for fucking.
Yeah.
But I'm quite comfortable. Me and Layla have been friends for a long time, and I have a lot of friends from New York. But like, I have thick enough skin, but it was kind of loud because my Scorpio was like, "No, ma'am." I think Abbie filmed it. Maybe sometime when we do the episode that we edit it all in, we'll.
I'm like, did I film it? I know I wanted to. I'm gonna have to go back and check my phone.
I know you're. Oh, I thought you totally were filming it. I thought
I
you
think
told
I
me
might
that
have been.
after.
I don't remember if I was or not.
I
I know I
can't. I
was
tried to find
tempted.
Layla. I couldn't find her on Twitter in an argument. Is she in a chat room, you guys? Tell me how to find Layla in an argument.
She has no
on Twitter.
bounds. You can't really pigeonhole her into just one platform and the arguments that she might get into.
It would be so funny if somehow I figured out how to go on live into one of those chats from here and we could hear Layla in a space.
It would be funny too to see someone pull up and then Layla gets out and she like towers over them because no one really expects how sort of like tall she is.
Yeah, she really is a tall drink of water. That's what I like. That is her pin post on X. So do make sure you follow Layla and write to her right now and tell her we miss her and to drive safe and hurry home, unless she's already home fighting with people in an X room.
Ray says it's just on her page. You might be going into her suspended account.
Oh, then I don't know. I don't know. I'm fine.
We'll let her
okay.
tell her own side of it.
Yeah, maybe she'll come here and she'll tell us the whole entire gig. And the Layla retelling is usually worth the wait. So, another thing, you guys, if you want or you check out podcasts, my Maria has a new podcast out called Lunatic Fringe, and it took a little bit to get out. It's been a project for a while now to like finally finish what is finished. But some of the stuff that we talked about there, it's interesting to me that it blew my mind that Jennifer Aniston and Barack Obama were having an affair. Is the like rumor, the word on the street. And she like told it to me on the show that I'm like producing. And so I just had to turn my mic on and go, "What?" Like, you're blowing my mind right now.
It sounds accurate to me. It almost sounds like they would be the better Netflix power couple, better than Barack and Michelle Obama. I feel like when they had their names in the beginning of that movie, what was it, like Kiss the World Goodbye or something?
Yeah.
I know that's not the name of it. It was something like that.
Leave the world
I
behind.
thought that was such a good.
Something.
But I feel that Barack probably had a bigger hand in that movie than she did. And Barack teaming up with Jennifer Aniston, they're just gonna put out like the new wave of CIA entertainment movies.
I was wondering if like he's wrapped up with the Diddy thing, and we know he's a homosexual. And so is she playing Beard right now? Like, stuff's going to come out about like Barack and Michelle are splitting up because of the chef and other stuff going on and whatever. And the kids were never theirs. So it's all been a ruse to begin with. So then they're like, do we want the character of Barack to keep pretending he's a straight black man? And then when I was thinking of all this, I was like, oh my gosh, it's called blackmail. Like,
Oh,
it literally is called blackmail. And so I was like, I wonder if that's what the whole, like, where it started. Like, I
Just
got him with the
as a
blackmail.
cruel joke on the rest of us.
yeah, because why else would
Like a
it?
synchronistic prank.
Yeah, or like even a small Haitian boy, like even in all your stuff that you were talking about that with them and sacrificing is how like a virgin young boy is immediately, even 1,000 years ago, it's like the older a child gets, women live longer eventually. Like men to boys to make it through certain phases, like there's more of them born or something, but by the time they hit like 3, they even, and by the time they hit, it's like a weird chart. And so it makes me it seems like if the fewer the thing was, would make it more valuable, then maybe a little boy would be valuable. So a black male just seems weird in their rituals.
But it's also a very new trend that I think is just starting. I think this is the new trend of Hollywood and Washington sort of just blending together into a single color. Like they're gonna interbreed so much that there's no longer gonna be a Hollywood and a Washington. It's just gonna be like a Washingwood or a Hollyton. I don't know what the name would be.
What about if they kind of both go away?
I don't. How could they? This honestly, like that's our number one export right now, or for the last. I mean, my lifetime. It feels like our export has been politics and Hollywood.
But I think Hollywood kind of has lost its luster a lot. Like the movie
Yes.
theaters are all closing down. Like no one, it's like almost the same way if Hollywood was a Federal Reserve on entertainment, it's been shattered like into shit coins. Like that's kind of how I feel. It's like everything is just getting shattered into and then it makes me wonder, are we at this point where is everything going to be commercialized to such a way, but almost like we're on in the Black Mirror way where our life is, I just want to go to work.
But see,
And
to me, that's going to be politics because the same way that what is it like Ed TV or Truman Show or those kind of things are going to be like a Mr. Beast, right? Mr. Beast runs for president, and the people voting for him are people that grew up watching him when they were like 3 years old through 20 years old, right? Like once he's like a 50 or 60-year-old guy or whatever other version or variation of a Mr. Beast out there. But now it's everyone's going to end up voting for people that they grew up with, these like celebrities, right? Well, it'll be weird in the future, right? Because right now, most presidents that pop up, at least in our previous lifetimes, it was just kind of like a random name that popped out of nowhere, unless you were already paying attention to politics and watching C-SPAN and like reading all the newspapers. But now it's starting to become like people that you're already familiar with and you want to vote for them because you want to have a beer with them. That's kind of like the most common version, and it's kind of always been along with it, except we only had this election cycle to get acquainted with these weird,
Yeah.
skull and bones weirdos that have like just been hiding out in the crypt. But now again, I really feel that there's not going to be as much competition, at least from like the weird people that come out of these secret societies versus someone that's been living their entire life out in public.
I think people think Hollywood is disgusting. And I think we're going to get the Diddy full thing. I
I
think
think so
this
too.
is kind of all just prepping people up for it. They need to know the key players. They need to meet Onassis. They need to know who the Maxwell family is. They need to meet Robert before they know who Ghislaine is. And so I feel like those 3 murders, his name's going to be involved because he's Mossad. And I think that has to come up a lot too. Not just the CIA, but
Is that a
Mossad.
is that account on X actually Baron Trump? it's got a blue check mark, and I don't know if it's him or not, but he keeps posting pictures of Barack Obama with Diddy, Barack Obama with Ellen.
Baron X Spaces?
Yeah.
Well,
don't
I
know.
don't know. It's the only Baron Melania follows.
I don't know.
What?
Yeah.
I don't know if it was Baron X
That
Spaces
seems
actually, but
way
Yeah,
too
then that's the
spicy
only.
for it seems like Baron's been keeping very squeaky clean because
yeah.
he is on a fast track to be president, but he's got a
Oh, yeah.
long time to not have like any scandals or weird allegations made against him. I almost feel like there's people in a wait that are just like, I'm gonna make my allegation in this exact date. They've got it on the calendar to start like adding these specs to him.
Did you guys watch the inauguration?
No,
Not live. I watched the speeches and stuff to like.
I saw enough to know that he spit on a Bible and refused to touch it afterwards, and then someone started doing like Nazi salutes. Right, that was pretty much what happened.
Well, the Bible thing I actually think is interesting is because it is an ancient Bible. It's like Abraham Lincoln's Bible. And he swore in on it last time, but it was his inauguration was outside. So the Bible had to be in a black box. And so his mother's Bible was moved to the top of it. But it's a Bible that's usually handled with like white gloves. And it has a red velvet outside and it's super, super delicate. And Barack Obama also swore in on this Bible, and you can see his like meat hook on top of it. And then when you realize, oh, that's a really old book. Like when you just take, if you're just a book lover like me, I know a couple of people that like have had bookstores that carry like, you know, first prints and stuff. And so it's just like, oh my gosh. And then other people were looking it up that JFK didn't put his hand on the Bible either. So I thought that was interesting.
Because he's a Catholic, or because
that's
he didn't want to get his
Well, there
dirty
is a
mitts all
thing
over it.
that
He
if
didn't want to give the Bible syphilis.
there's something about some people have, and I don't know what book it is. I don't, I'm not good with passages or anything like that. But like swearing on the Bible is like somewhere you're giving this thing power over God in a way. And so some certain, I don't know if it's Episcopalians or Baptist or something. There's certain sects of religions that won't swear on the Bible,
well.
but I don't know.
The
What do they
Bible
have
actually
to hide?
says
That's what I want to know.
there's a verse that says that when you're swearing, do not swear to your father or anything on earth or in the heavens above, because none of that is yours to swear upon. Let your yes be your yes, be a yes, and your no be a no. That's exactly what it says about swearing. Like you're not supposed to swear on anything.
They want to keep their hand. Yeah, Catholics won't touch it.
That's what I think. It's something like that. Like you're like you already said to me. Like
Yeah.
that's enough. Like
I don't know,
what's
my
It's like
family
make your
grew up
word mean
all strict
something. So your
Catholic.
yes shouldn't be your yes, and your no should be a no. You don't
You
have
get
to
hit
swear.
with Bibles.
but he put his hand on the Bible the last presidency, but his mother's Bible was on the top of the red box.
To protect him from burning his hand. That's
So
the context.
and so he didn't melt through the Bible is what you
Right.
think? I know. There's something about like having it written in that into the end, like just so you guys know, if anyone ever comes and says they can fix everything, that's when you know it's time. If there's ever peace on earth, you guys, that's when you know it's almost the end. Like it's just like we're all in a trauma cycle of we're like living through an apocalyptic playbook. It's crazy, but it's so
Relatively, 'cause
manufactured and so fake down to the monkeypox of it all.
they keep citing golden age, and a golden age would have to be 100. I mean, roughly by definition, it's at least 100 years. So like as soon as there is peace, like there's at least 3 generations that get to kind of milk it, and then it goes way horrible. Like you don't want to be around at like year 90 into a golden age or born into that. That would probably be one of the worst times to grow up, because then you would
Think that's
know
what happened to
the
Atlantis?
tail end. Yeah, exactly. Imagine being like the last generation on Atlantis.
But what if this about Atlantis? I've been thinking about this a lot this week, and I don't know. I didn't remember the dude's name. I don't remember what I was listening to, but I'm like, what if I might be right? What if the entire island of Atlantis Don Juan?
Oh yeah, just like completely moved to another
No, like ascended,
reality.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, like whatever the thing is, they just
yeah,
vanished
yeah. It's definitely
in the
possible.
concept. I
I mean,
don't know.
according to what Francis Bacon and then Manly Palmer Hall, like America, the new Americas, that is the new Atlantis.
Huh. And I don't, the Panama Canal thing's crazy.
That is crazy.
Like and then some guy today, why Trump was in California with fake
It's like,
Melania.
we didn't give it to
I'm gonna
China.
pull up Trump in California real
The
quick,
fact
you
that he
guys.
straight up said that, he's like, we didn't give it to China.
We didn't give what to China?
The Panama Canal, because he was
Oh,
talking about how we gave it back over to like what, Panama or whatever, and he's like, and then they give control of it over to China. We didn't give it back to them for China to control it. Like, no, 38,000 Americans died building it or whatever, and I'm probably quoting all this wrong, but close
I
enough.
can't wait to find. Well, I wish I. Oh wait, here's him today with fucking fake Melania. Oh, and the amount of. Oh my gosh, the picture says fake Melania. Like I don't even think the news does work anymore, you guys. I think they really just go on Twitter and
Yeah.
follow a bunch of conspiracy theorists and then write it as articles.
Well, you know what? That's closer to journalism than what
yeah.
they've been
That
doing
is
for the past
very true.
freaking
Fair kudos to you for saying it.
yeah.
Here, wait, I'm pulling up the
They're
article since I
reporting
was.
real shit instead of what the government tells them to report. Then maybe we're making progress.
Look what it says. Fake Melania. Trump's visit to North Carolina and LA with wife sparked bizarre rumors. And then everybody's like, oh, black hat Melania was also fake Melania. That's why she wore her hat all the way down, because you never see fake Melania's eyes. And then real Melania, she came out for the dance party and laughed and laughed and laughed.
This is like the show Severance. There's like they've severed her brain so they can send out one Melania versus another Melania depending on the situation.
This is how glittery red pilled I am. I think his ex-wife is
Perfect.
not dead. I think the prime minister of Japan is not dead. I think so much of what's going on still, including the drones flying around, because there's like literal ICE operations, like taking people from buildings right now. Like if you're illegally here or like some kind of crazy criminal, the ship has sailed. And so I just think we're literally in war, but this is how traumatized we are. Every other country gets to know when we're in war. Our generations are so soft, they're like, let's not panic them.
Yeah.
They'll like, whatever, we can't panic them. It seems like, here, let them pay attention to the cold weather. And they could honestly tell me it's any temperature outside, and we'll all believe them at this point. So they're like, it's negative 72 outside. You're like, feels like it. I don't know.
One of
I
my
don't pay
favorite
attention to the
things to
weather.
do is go through the teachers subreddit, just because it's kind of like the perfect litmus test to see exactly where the new psyops are coming from, and basically how confident people are to like speak out against whatever like the current status quo is. And I've been seeing lots of people now speaking up of like being in favor of this, teachers being in favor of ICE like taking, kids out of the schools and removing them if they're here illegally. And it's wild to even see someone speak up in these kind of contexts, because over the last 4 years, it almost feels like saying that out loud would have been a felony, and you would have lost your Bank of
Yeah.
America account for sure, right? So there's a weird tide turning where now some of that like silent majority is going to be less silent, at least long enough to gloat for the first couple of years.
I do want to say here, if you are a quote unquote patriot, because this is the words that Bank of America used, we have 70 million patriots. We love our patriots, and we would never freeze their accounts.
Right.
So if you're one of the
On
70
every
million
person's
patriots,
post who said anything about Bank of America.
yeah. So if you are one of these people, hit me up. I know people that are putting together a class action lawsuit against Bank of America. So if you are one of those people, or look online yourself, you'll come across the people. But yeah, it's pretty rad when you're like, oh, are we in a time of we're gonna sue banks? This is gonna be fantastic. Are we gonna sue the medical companies? Oh, speaking of, what do you guys think about that new cancer mRNA vaccine?
What kind of free snacks are we gonna get this time? And I
Oh.
still think that in one of these, there's gonna be like the root beer flavored version or the, whatever, like the hot Taki flavored vaccine. Do you do you want the hot ones branded vaccine?
But doesn't a cancer vaccine sound so I Am Legend?
Totally. That's where I don't know if I posted it or not. I might have just with I Am Legend walking down the street with his German Shepherd, and it's
Yeah.
like the year's 2030, and I
Yeah.
didn't take the cancer vaccine. It's too ridiculous. I even just the word vaccine, I feel like, don't you guys get it? Even the normiest normies are like, I don't think all these vaccines are good.
Well, that's the thing. If you called it a cancer treatment, if it was to treat cancer, that would potentially be something. But who's going to do that to prevent cancer? I mean, there's
Now,
probably
is it
Probably
a
so many people, they'll
is it
cut
a
their remember
terminal
Oh,
Angelina
yeah.
cancer
Jolie cut her
vaccine?
tits off
Yeah.
preemptively.
Oh, my sister did. She doesn't have cancer. And her ovaries. She got those removed too. I'm like, so you're just hacking shit off just because you have the marker. Like,
I'm the kind of girl that I want a boob job just for the way I would feel about myself, and I didn't I can't even imagine to just be like, "Oh, can I get my tits cut off?" And they're like, "Why? 'Cause of cancer?" No.
dude, yeah.
Just so I don't get tit cancer, I'm just gonna get rid of my tits. Don't you see how that works?
And if you've ever seen it, my mom she had hers cut off, and it's pretty traumatizing. Like, it's sad. The way that it looks is sad. Like,
Yeah.
no offense to anybody who's had it done, but it does look like you had body parts
A
removed.
mastectomy.
Yeah, double mastectomy.
Yeah, that is, I mean, you can get fake boobs put in after.
Yeah, you
I
can.
can't even
I would.
stand getting a pebble in my shoe,
I
and
would
I
get tattoos
imagine
too.
that would be like a version of having fake tits, would be like having a pebble in your shoe, but it's like always there.
No, dude, I want pebbles in my shoes like that
Yeah.
at some point.
Can I get some
After this
rocks in my
year, I'm
shoes,
competing this
babe?
year, so I can't do it. I can't take that much time out of the gym, but yes, I do.
I feel like, honestly, I have a retainer in my mouth, a permanent retainer, and once a year minimum, I get this crazy, trapped claustrophobic feeling, and I will go to the dentist and I'm like, take this out of my mouth. But by the time I actually get there and all the stuff, I'm like, I think I'm fine. They're like, your teeth will shift forever. Do you want to just keep it? And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. It's good. I'm good. I'm a little kooky. But I feel like if I had fake tits, I would be one of those ladies that was like, "Get these out of me. I have to get these out of me." Like, there's something about it that makes me feel away.
Well, that's what I'm like. I would be in my head all the time, like anything pop up, like, is it because I'm having a reaction to my tits? I would be that person.
I do think it is interesting that it's called Stargate, because Stargate, warp speed, we go into the future really fast, and then Stargate, we go far back in time through a door. And so something does feel like we're talking about time a lot. Like, time travels on the timeline.
Well, and then we had the portals at Christmas time and all of this stuff. Like, why are they using? And then Mothership the Iranian mothership. Why are they using these words, really?
Oh my gosh, I wonder if I have it on here. If I don't, you know what was the cutest thing to me for real? When Donald Trump sang the YMCA with the sword. I must have watched
Yeah.
that 30 fucking times. I was just like, how much JD Vance and his wife like legitimately got a kick out of it. And then how
Even
much
Melania.
Melania, like when a woman laughs like that at me, I am like a goofball. Like I'm like, how can I keep this feeling going
Yeah.
of making her laugh? Like, and so you can see like ding, 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 ding with the sword, and he's like, whoa, you know, like he's just. And then if you look at his face up close, if you zoom in, he's blowing kisses at the audience the whole time. I love you, mwah, and mwah, and mwah. And it's just so. He's like a showman cutting a cake. Like he has this huge sword to cut a big, huge celebration cake. And I just thought it was like such a silly idea. And it's, you know, it's been bothering me for quite some time about what the fuck with the YMCA. What are we up to here? And
Yeah.
then I looked up, and before Guantanamo Bay was Guantanamo Bay, it was a YMCA. And so he's singing to them, mocking them. It's fun to stay at the YMCA because they're actually fucking in Gitmo.
Oh my gosh.
And then somewhere along the way, because X is talking about phones. Like X is talking about phones. They're going to have an X phone. We just heard it in the last 3 days. And, you know, oh, there's an emergency in South Carolina. Here comes fucking Skynet. There's an emergency in, you know, California. Here comes, Starlink. Here comes Starlink. And like, here it comes over here. So it does seem like if we lose something, and we're waiting for the fake news to tell us anything, but I think we're going to watch military tribunals come from. But when we're watching it, it's going to be like an event. The world will be watching. It'll be on X, and they won't be able to take it down at all. And during it, there's going to be little parts like the judge just called a lunch break for today and blah, 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 blah. So we'll come back in an hour. And then it'll be like, Jim, did you know Guantanamo Bay used to be a YMCA? And people are going to be like, what the fuck? Like the amount of stuff I think that is going to be like, we're watching the end of a long series all come together. That's how I think it's going to play out.
Yeah.
For the good, bad, and different. I just feel like we're on like season 10, episode 2. Like we're almost at the end. I don't know what kind
We're
of
seeing how
finale,
it's weaving together now.
but
Those
I also
last
think
2
it's
seasons were kind of shit.
The last 2 seasons were the worst. They like changed the hero arc was weird.
It was like the new Squid Game season where it's like it ended halfway through and they like promised that they're going to come back with a new season, but really it's just going to be the second half of the second season, and now I don't even want to watch it. But now like a new show came in. Like they just brought back one of my favorite shows, and they're going to knock out another 4 seasons, I guess.
What one?
So I'm
Squid
saying
Game?
Trump.
Oh.
Trump is the new show that we
my
get 4
gosh.
seasons of.
Even some guy in LA was talking about it today, and Trump's like, well, FEMA's garbage. And so we got to get rid of FEMA and blah, 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 blah. And he was talking shit. And some guy around the horseshoe table was like, sir, I just want to say real quick, we should stick up for FEMA. Like, how are we going to organize all these people? And he's like, what, you got 40 million people in your state? You can't get a few thousand volunteers together? And he's like, well, what happens if something big happens in Rhode Island? Well, it would never be as big as in California. It's Rhode Island. Like
right. And look at this is one of my favorites. Shout out to Jack Lloyd, one of the few libertarians that I can actually stand because I like how he breaks things down. But he always, whenever like someone gets into a technical debate, or if I'm like picking like my annoying like picking at things until they don't make sense anymore, but he always brings it back to reality. So you have to compare it to what we actually have. Like, what is the real world version of the thing that is the only alternative? And right now, like, how does FEMA typically respond in North Carolina or in New Orleans or in Florida or in any of these places, or in California? Like, how do they usually respond? It's usually not, people aren't like winning awards. They're not becoming American heroes over how well FEMA does respond. So yeah, maybe there is an alternative that we can try that doesn't include the organization that Alex Jones famously said we're just stacking up coffins in like the late 90s to early 2000s, because that's what FEMA's real plan is to just let us all die and then figure out a way to like efficiently store our bodies.
You know what? I think Alex Jones is such a psyop, but here's what I would say those things were really for. They've been shipping bodies in those plastic containers forever of human trafficked people, and they just needed a place to store them all over time. Because they've always been doing that under our dead bodies. Isn't that what Made in America is all about? Shipping cocaine under soldiers' dead bodies? Or
Well, at least
heroin?
Vietnam, yeah. I don't
So
think they just like to kill people back then and stuff their bodies filled with drugs for like the fun of it, not even for the practical reasons.
maybe the Clinton Foundation can take over for FEMA.
Oof.
Yeah, but the Walmarts, there isn't a time I don't go to Walmart that I'm like, look at this fucking prison. There isn't one time that I'm like,
I
this,
know, and it was extremely bad, like during COVID and everything. Like to the point where I didn't even like to walk in there, and neither did my kids. We were like, this is so, the energy in it was so bad.
You know, Kmart in the 80s was awesome. Like,
Kmart
I
was,
don't know, you know what I mean? It was not like going, I know exactly what you're talking about. You go into a Walmart now, and I'm almost expecting to get into a fight with someone or to like walk in like a weird corner of the store where the lights are dim and like something very questionable is happening, or just depressed. I usually just feel
yeah,
depressed being in the Walmart.
yes,
I was excited. Like my family was in a good mood to go to like Kmart or Price Chopper in the 80s, but
yeah.
I don't know if anyone like really cares about that as much anymore.
just so
Like Disney
everyone,
Kmart.
I think that would be a good idea if the National Guard replaced FEMA. I think some things should be our military. Why are we rebuilding all these places and bombing all these places when you could just serve your country and there's so many other things to do along with protecting it?
Yeah,
Like, you could learn how to build a dam or build a bridge, or I think the infrastructure that is, like, falling apart, that is, like, a perfect learning skills like that and being able to take them, they make you sovereign. Skills make you sovereign. Knowing how to do things makes you sovereign. And so, I don't think that would be necessarily bad
With the
at all.
caveat that you don't always get the job you sign up for.
I think
Yeah.
that the age limit to joining the National Guard is like 38 or 39 now. They keep raising it,
And
so
I might be wrong. Maybe it's the Coast Guard that I'm thinking. One of them can arrest, and they're, like, the only,
Coast Guard can.
branch of the military that can also arrest a citizen.
I
Yeah,
think you
so
can
maybe it's the
also
Coast
be up to
Guard.
45 and be in the Guard.
Yeah, no, I mean like joining though. Like you can be past a certain age, but I think like it used to be when I was in the Navy, 35 was the age limit to joining the Navy. And then they raised it because when my son went into the Navy, I almost like re-signed to, but I had to get waivers, so it would have taken me a while and I would have missed the age limit. Um, but I almost re-signed just to do the Navy what is the Navy one called? Navy Reserves to be the
You
weekend warrior.
This episode's called Brainwashed, and, like, during it, I was thinking, like, the job and, like, the things we have to do and LARP in the world and, like, how a lot of the ways, like, Thomas pointed out, like, well, so many of the ways we think are kind of because of scarcity in general, like,
Yeah.
everything's put in reserve, so then it becomes a scarcity to hold a value and blah, blah, blah. Like, how much brainwashing on top of already whatever is going on do you guys then have to deal with in the military?
So much. It's so much.
It's 100% brain like
Yeah.
there's no
You're
non-brainwashing,
not allowed
which
to
actually
think for
makes it
yourself.
easier to deal with because yeah, you're not allowed to think for yourself. So
Yeah.
you just kind of like think like things are spoken or directed to you, and you just do those things, and then you get downtime. You get to be like kind of a normal person, but there's also a really weird phenomenon that after you get out of the military, at least for me, like even while you're in there, maybe after like 2 years, it really sets in. But even after you get out, there's like a transition period that for some people lasts a few weeks, 6 months. For me, it lasted probably like 6 months. For some people, it's years of like they still don't feel like a normal civilian. You actually just call people if you went to a Walmart, those are civilians, and I'm not a civilian. I'm like a soldier, and you kind of like it's hard to describe unless you have been there, but it's not
You
like you're
can't even
better
talk
than, you're just
normal.
other than. You're a completely
Yeah.
different animal than they are.
Well, did you have to do the transition assistance program?
I don't know what that is. Probably not though, because my time got cut short and we parted on
Well,
bad
mine
terms.
too, but we still had to do a TAP class is what they called it. It's transition assistance program. And you had to do like 2 or 3 weeks of going to this class before they would let you out. And um they're transitioning you back into being a civilian because you don't even speak the same language anymore. Like military speech is you can't even like if I was just talking to another friend in the military and you were there as a civilian, you wouldn't understand anything we said. It's a whole other language. And so they have to teach you how to speak again, how to like
I got
act
the
like a normal
5 5s
person
on the
again.
LO. Are you going over to mess and do? And I'd be like, well,
Yep,
it is.
exactly. And so you'd be like, so if you go to a job interview like that, they'd be like, I have no idea what you're even saying. So
Am I my 3-month TAP separation training was in a military prison. So I got my own version of that, but they taught me how to act more and talk more like a criminal than anything.
yeah, I didn't have to spend any time in the brig.
How long were
So
you on a boat, Abby?
I I was in school the entire time I was in the military because I was in advanced electronics and computers, so I did a technical core just to learn like basic electronics, which took several months, and then I had to do my A school, which took like all of my schooling in Chicago was like it took a whole year, and then I had another year of schooling in San Diego. So, and then I got out. So I didn't actually go to a ship.
Oh, that's kind of odd. You're like, I was stationed in Chicago and in San Diego.
Yeah,
But that would make me so much happier if people signed up and like that's kind of more the route that
Right, well,
happens,
like,
you
I was
know?
in the Air Force, and I was never on a plane except for a couple cargo planes because it was cheaper than taking commercial, but otherwise, there was, like, no such thing as being in the air. If anything, I spent more time in the water because of, like, a failed Sears training, thing that I went through.
that's my son was an IT in the Navy, and he was so upset because his first command was at a naval hospital in Jacksonville, and so never got to go on a ship. So he never felt like a sailor because like his entire 4 years was spent in a
I wanna be
hospital.
a seaman.
And I was like, "You're lucky you have shore duty." He's like, "I do not feel
You know
lucky."
what you and your son should do?
Hmm.
I think you guys should plan a trip, like whatever the year, like pick like a time like 2020 whatever. And you guys take a trip somewhere and on your trip you guys go to the equator.
Oh, yeah, hell yeah.
Like you guys can do it together. And
That
then
together.
on that
Yeah,
trip you get your anchor tattoo.
Yeah,
yeah.
and you can go and fix the Panama Canal while you're at it.
Oh, I'm getting a rooster and a rooster and a pig on my feet because that's what my grandfather had. You get those on the equator too.
My my would-be father-in-law, my wife's dad, he had a cock below his knee.
Mhm.
Like, I didn't know that was, like, a big Navy guy thing to get, like, a cock below your knee,
Yeah.
and, like, oh, and I never really got it when I was a kid, but my dad had Tweety Bird below his knee. And I always thought that was really funny, like, whatever the military joke was of the thing, my dad got the joke and then like, leaned in extra queer. Like, Tweety Bird, I'm like, "Secure, dude." Going full Tweety.
Hell yeah.
So, anyway, I don't know, the it feels like we're all in kind of like whatever the big form of MK Ultra was. I didn't realize it was gonna be such a, like, busy post of mine on X as I put something like, "MK Ultra never ended, it just expanded. Welcome to the support group." I didn't realize it would get, like, traction of like, "Oh, people like this." But we're all MK Ultra'd, and it's like a pill to swallow because everybody thinks they're smarter than the psyop no matter what the psyop is, but at some point, you've played along with whatever psyop, and
Well, And also,
Global warming is real.
one of the biggest discoveries, if you I mean, how much can you believe from the MK Ultra scientists? But Dr. Jolly West said that out of all the techniques and the torture and the psychedelics and like the weird psychic driving tapes, all the different esoteric and exotic MK Ultra techniques, he said the one that worked the best and the most consistently was just sleep deprivation. If you can just keep someone up for like 48 hours, the end. You don't need all these weird like sodium pentothal and giving them LS. In fact, all those things are way less predictable, and almost all the other like torture versions, now you're kind of damaging the goods. Sleep deprivation, you don't really damage the goods. You can make them go crazy for a little while, but you can also get them back to normal. So I mean, if you can be sleep deprived for any intentional reason by somebody else and then question or given commands, you can be MK Ultra. There's like no mental fortitude that can get you over the concept of being delirious from not being able to sleep.
And that's boot camp in a nutshell. And that I knew it when it was happening because I'm a person that, I need sleep. I don't do early mornings, but they wake you up at 0400 hours and then you don't get to go to bed till 10 o'clock at night. And then you might have what they call the balls to 4 watch, which is midnight to 4 a.m. So you have a 4-hour watch, you have 2 hours to sleep. But, by the time you get out of your
And they're
uniform
waking
and
you up in the
put it
middle of
away,
those 2 hours too. They're
yeah,
doing like
yeah,
drills
you
and
get
like running
no
in
sleep.
and
And then, you're physically exhausted because you're doing all the physical training. And then,
Mm.
you can't just march to the mess hall, like, and it be just right down the street. It's like seriously like 3 miles away. So you're so physically tired that you're falling asleep, like walking like a drunk person because you are sleeping while you're walking, literally falling asleep. And yeah, like I knew that I was going to do whatever they said. Like after boot camp, that's when like my like, no, I'm not listening to your stupid ass. Like that's a dumb way to do it. You need to listen to me. That's when that kicked in. But during boot camp, there was no way in hell I was not going to listen to everything they said to do.
And that's the number one thing they're training for. I mean, they're
Yeah,
making sure that you can make an, 8-minute mile or whatever the hell the spec is. But beyond that, they're making sure that you will. Even if you are a smart ass like me or Abbie
yeah,
probably ended up being directly after that, you knew that that was part of the criteria that you were being trained for. So as long as you can just shut up and act the role, you don't have to actually go all the way in and become gung ho. As long as you can put that hat on for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, however long your training is, and then you get to take the hat off. But part of you is like you're stuck with that hat. Like you got the ring, right? You got like hat hair
yeah.
for a while.
Oh yeah,
It's so crazy. I think back to a younger me, but I even think back to her looking outside with this grown brain, and I'm like, Chaney, you can't even do it now. Like, I'm like, would you have been able to do it then? And I'm like, I don't think you can do it still now. I think I would have had a really rough time. And I used to think in my young age, it would have been the physical of it that would have given me a really rough time, which I'm sure that would have been hard too. But I now look at it, I think I would have had an emotionally rough time with it. Like the yelling at me
hmm
and like being made to feel a fool in front of a group of people and like all these, it's like that I know kind of has to happen. And it's like, oh, I don't know how I would have worked under it.
It was kind of, I mean, it's so weird. Like I think back on it, and even if it's terrifying and it sucks and like all the bad, but it's also like a thrill. It's like so fun
yeah,
because I heard the most creative insults and just saw the weirdest human behavior in my entire life in boot camp. Like I saw people do the most irrational things because you got these huge jacked, authority figures yelling at you and telling you to do weird things that don't make any sense. And when you actually do those things that don't make sense, it's hilarious, right? Like if it happens to you, maybe not, but you see I mean, I saw dudes shitting their pants. I saw a dude that was so afraid to ask to go to the bathroom that he was like peeing in containers and hiding it. And then like the TIs come and find that. Like these are just some of just like the low hanging fruit out of the crazy things that otherwise I saw white kids for the first time, never saw a black person waking up in the middle of the night and like touching their hair and like getting into fights over stupid stuff like this, like just weird versions. So now when I'm out in the regular normie public and someone's like, "Oh, I can't believe they would have done that." I don't know. I've seen
I
the
know.
weird
Like,
shit
people
people will
are
do.
fucking weird. Yes.
People are super weird, and they can be coerced easily. I'm talking night one. This isn't after 6 weeks of training. This was like the very first night that you're away from mommy and daddy, and someone's yelling at you. You're taking a shower with all your clothes on because you have no idea what the hell's going on.
That's where, yeah,
Immediately you're like, oh, that bitch is a snitch. Don't fucking watch yourself around her.
Right.
my superpower, I can stay up so long. It's like the one part, but I kind of like almost like a drug I've taken before, insomnia. So I know where I'm like, oh, you're kind of lucid right now. And it's like a whole different feeling. Instead of being like lucid dream, you're lucid awake.
Yeah.
And it's like a whole, like, you feel very like woo, you feel attached to everything. I imagine sometimes that sleeplessness and insomnia give me the feeling of a meth head. Like,
Well, you get like a
Yeah.
second wind. Some people, like I know if I try and stay up for 24 hours, around hour 18, I will get a full-on second wind that I can
yeah.
ride out for another 6 to 8 hours. But like you can only have so many of them. That's why the term third wind and fourth wind aren't as popular, because you usually just get that second wind.
I'm pretty like that part, but whatever, I would have been bad sitting in a room where I'm in a gas mask.
Ugh.
Like, I can't. I have like such sensitive eyes. Even cutting onions, I can't see. And once I can't see, I can't breathe out of my nose. And then it's like I just feel like I would have been such a snotty faced mess during
Oh,
that.
everyone is.
Yeah.
Does the Air Force have to do that, Thomas?
They do, but I got out of it because I was a chaplain, so I had to assist the chaplain that day. So I was eating pizza and drinking Pepsi and watching TV while everyone else was getting sprayed in the face with
Ugh.
mace and like the gas. Yeah.
The day we went, I didn't get a shower because I was on ship staff and I had to sort mail and everything. So afterwards, I smelt like that gas for like the next 24 hours. But we had to go in with our whole entire division, and there was 88 of us, and we're in our height lines like we would march, and I'm one of the shortest people, so I'm the very last line and the very last person in the last line. Like maybe there was like 5 people after me, but there's the guys there with their freaking state of the art gas masks on, putting the pellets on the hot plate, and you have to take your gas mask off when they call your line, and you stand there and you hold it up in one hand, and your other hand is here to catch anything that drips,
Mhm.
which is like tears, snot, and if you puke, you have to pull your shirt up and vomit in your shirt. And
It's a
when
humiliation ritual, 100
yeah, oh
million
yeah.
percent.
And so they start at one end of the line, and like I said, I'm the 5th line, so I'm the last line to go, and I'm the like 5th one from the end, and 88 people before me, and you're wearing a gas mask until your line goes, but they don't seal properly. So you're smelling it and it's already going into your sinuses already. So finally, when it gets to my line, though, we take them off, and then it's like full blown in your face, in your eyes. And like I'm jumping up and down. I'm sitting there like they were laughing so hard at me because I was literally just jumping up and down, holding my gas mask, and you had to, hold your other hand here, and then you had to say your name, and I was like, Seaman Recruit Ramsey Division 298, but I could barely even speak, so I'm like croaking it out while I'm jumping, and they're laughing so hard. And then after that, after the line finished, could all march out. The second the fresh air hits your eyes, it's like straight pain too, because like you're walking out into the fresh air, but it's like it just hits again. So then the tears just start pouring down, and it's so hard to open your eyes the first time. But
Have you been pepper sprayed or anything?
no, thank God.
I've pepper sprayed myself.
Rapist.
No, like yeah, I try to rate myself.
I was trying to rate myself again.
Fortunately, I stopped
and
it
this
before
time I
it
got
out of
pepper
control.
spray.
I think it was on like a Halloween, and I mean, maybe it wasn't me, but I gave it to this other troublemaker that I was with, and they threw this huge can of mace on the ground like full speed, and it just like exploded, and it was a huge cloud of just pure mace. And normally, you like those little cans, Like, you could probably mace a good 30 or 40 people with one of these cans. So for one to just explode into a huge cloud, you're
Don't try
getting
at
like
home, kids.
40 different macings all at the same time, and you're like because normally it's like a spray, like a concentrated
Yeah.
liquid that just like hits you in the eyes, but when it aerates and you can't get away from it, you're like inhaling it and smelling it, and it's in your
gosh.
eyes and everything.
At the insurrection in January 6th, from far away when we were walking down there, you could see these smoke clouds going off. And it was like really all for theater. Like they were just color bombs, like going off big that we were like, what is happening down there? So as we like walk up and it's just like color bombs. And then somebody's like, hey, free tours. Because I saw all these people hanging off scaffolding and I just like kept walking up closer and closer. And then somebody's like, hey, free tours. And he opened this door and I just walked up these stairs and then I was on this next level of everything. And it was just like, whoa, this is so weird. It was like my brain was just like, what in the fuck is happening? Like part of it was exciting. And then I was like, am I going to die here today? And it was all this stuff going on. And it was like, then I felt like, oh, look at me, I'm a patriot. And then I got hit with tear gas. Like, oh, some of the smoke is real. And the amount of snot and tears, and like, I was like, oof, I got to get out of here. Like, like it was just so overwhelming that I'm like, and I didn't believe it was real. And then it was like, oh, that was real tear gas. Like I got tear gas. I have a picture of myself in the mirror. I don't ever take selfies in the mirror, but my eyes were so swollen. It looked like I had a bad breakup.
Yeah. Every person, we were all outside with these barrels of water, just like washing our eyes, just trying to open them. And it was everyone's eyes were just.
I know
bad
that's what I
stuff.
wonder sometimes. Like they know so much about chemicals and things and like all this fog. And then you wonder like what chemtrails, and it does seem extra cold right now everywhere. Like I know it's
Yeah.
my snow in
Snow in
Miami
Florida.
spell.
Yep.
Really, you guys? It's the 1977 loop. It's like something about the time travel of 1977 that we're on this. I wonder if I can pull it up quick on my X because I feel
Year
like
of the Snake.
I mean, it's snowed in Florida at least like 6 or 7 times since I've lived here.
Yeah, it hasn't
Wild.
snowed in Miami since 1977. But hold on. Where's the
Like
law?
even in Orlando, we didn't get snow this year, but we've gotten icicles on like the tops of like the roofs, and I've had frost on my windshield. Does that count? I mean, I grew up in upstate New York, so I definitely know what real snow looks like. We don't get anything near that, but you definitely get some of the same sort of effects you'd expect from it.
Okay. So in 1977, Jimmy Carter was sworn in. There was snow in Miami. Winnie the Pooh. There must have been the Winnie the Pooh movie came out. Star Wars came out. The dude climbed the World Trade Center. There was a Beverly Hills Supper Club fire that killed like 168 people. That I think is interesting that Beverly Hills is on fire right now. Elvis dies, and we've seen Elvis everywhere for the inauguration. Even the last dance, Elvis was behind Trump and Melania while they were singing. Here's an interesting one because we were just talking about it with X. How do you implement X? You need blackouts first. And then also being brainwashed. MK Ultra hearings were in 1977. Hulk Hogan's been back on the timeline. The WOW signal is, they say, an alien signal from space, where we've been inundated with alien signals. We had a port strike, and I think the National Guard or who took care of it so that we didn't have to. They set it all up like it was going to be a big deal. Then nothing ever happened again.
Yeah.
Golden Dragon, Ronnie Van Zant, and then Thomas. I thought it was interesting that Pinwheel was introduced.
Right, which was basically the original DNA for Nickelodeon eventually over a few mutations.
Which is, if you don't know, like it was like as Disney, like Pinwheel. They took
It
all
was
these
like
Canadian
Pinwheel, and then
TV
Eureka's
shows.
Castle, and then Nickelodeon. That was sort of the trajectory.
Yeah, and like You Can't Do That on Television was another Canadian show. So it's just curious. Canada, how much they've been in the news and how it's like 51st state and blah, blah, blah. And then if you're thinking about for the Canadian people in that whole big piece of land of Canada, there's only 30 million people or something. That if their place paid them out resources, think of what their land's worth per citizen.
And
No
they're all
shit.
living right on the border of the US, essentially. Like the vast, vast majority of Canadians live
Yeah.
really close to
Not
the
deep
US
into it.
border.
Yeah, it's just so crazy.
Did you
It's
guys ever
funny
watch
too.
the Alaskan Bush people? Like they were getting that money, and they ended up, a couple of them went to jail for it because they weren't living in Alaska all the time.
And I heard that it does not talked about how many of the people go out there and they actually like get malnourished and starve because they have no idea. Like people think
How
they
hard it
like
is.
gonna go to
Yeah.
the grocery store and I'm gonna live off the grid. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. I think it's interesting. Pinwheel's also a hypnotizing device where it
You have to
does
blow
seem
a
like,
pinwheel,
hey, you
like
guys,
when you
look
do
at
a
MK
EEG
Ultra
too.
hearings. Here's Pinwheel, like almost the exact same way as like we have LifeLog. We're gonna stop that. Here's Facebook. It's like, hey, you guys, just so you know, here's some of the stuff we did. We're not doing it anymore. And Pinwheel. It's just 1977. So Jimmy Carter had to die with Betty White, the mayor of Hollywood, and the Queen of England. I'm so giddy that we're here now. I could be dead.
Trudeau's dad was prime minister in 1977.
Who's?
Hmm.
Trudeau's.
And I feel like, and I might be like Elon Musk's dad. I feel like he was in Canada, maybe a Canadian. And like, isn't he's always been like a super big transhumanist, I think. Like it's not just, it didn't just start with him. It's like, it's a long family tradition.
Well, I think transhumanism is just the new wave of eugenicists, right? Like that's just the new version of it. Like
Yeah.
because in eugenics, it's more about changing other people, like making sure they can add to the gene pool so that when your kid, like you're not going to be around to hold your great 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 grandkids' hands and make sure that they don't breed with the people they're going to give them negative traits. So you want to nip it in the bud. This is a eugenicist, mentality. But transhumanism takes the other way. Instead of like stopping everyone else from entering the playing field, they're just going to like jack themselves up on some steroids that they get to play in their own class, like elite class that doesn't even like interact with like the plebeian class.
Kind of like along lines of Gattaca or Eon Flux or something, where everyone's just
Yeah, imagine if you had the technology. I mean, like this guy that's trying to live forever by taking all the different drugs and doing blood transfusions and stuff.
right.
But a lot of the time, you don't see people doing that until they get into their like 40s, 50s, 60s. Once they actually start seeing. But imagine if they start like the elites have like their 3-year-old kid starts doing transfusions with like 2-year-old's blood or whatever. Like, I mean, that might be an extreme case, right? But don't wait until you're already on death's door to start all of this like life extending stuff. And I mean, that's kind of going to be the next thing, like you're going
Yeah.
to get your kid their first yo-yo and their first little like fake kitchenette set and a blood transfusion. And that'll just start like an annual thing that goes forward. And that's not even crazy because I've found old newspaper advertisements from the early 1900s, 1800s, and some of them literally said like, oh, springtime's here, time to get rid of that winter blood. It's like, come get your blood transfusion, to get your new summer blood in. And it was like always kind of this concept that it fell out of favor a little bit. But I think that the new direction now is going to be more about that and getting people to get in on it earlier and earlier.
Well, it's funny because Donald Trump said today too, one of the weird things he says is they even want the afterbirth. What are they even doing with that?
He said that, huh?
Yeah, and so some of the stuff between, even if it's a little thing like fluoride, and we'll be like, you were saying, like, I have a feeling there's gonna be like coffee flavored vaccines one day. And I'm like, remember we go to the dentist and they're like, what flavor do you want?
Exactly. Yeah. You want mint or root beer? I think they'll probably do that with like the tear gas too. At a certain point, you're gonna go to the protest, and the cops will be like, "Should we hit him with the Cool Ranch or like the spicy nacho?"
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like do people? I'm waiting to see a protest. I'm like, that's where I feel like somewhere there isn't. Everybody did an inauguration thing. That's like a good, everybody got together and enjoyed it. But then I even feel the way they moved the inauguration every 3 hours was because they were trying to avoid a mass casualty event.
Yeah,
Like
I
that
think so
was
too.
sus. Like I know some things that were kind of supposed to go off at certain times and couldn't go off. And so I imagine that anyone that was running plans thought the same thing. And it was like, even fake Melania, she was there the whole day in her Guy Fawkes outfit that we didn't even get to see real Melania until that dance. And the way in her Trump were, it almost was like they hadn't seen each other in a while.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they had just hung out all day.
Was
That
is
is
she
fake Melania, you
is
guys.
she
You
like
might
a
not even be a
bodyguard?
conspiracy theorist. I think she's a red sparrow. I think the black hat is an actual, and I know, men, there's some bad bitches out there. And I think the black hat is actually like a Valentina Shevchenko, where she's trained in all these martial arts. She has a gun somewhere. She has it, like she could throw a knife. Like she's one of those. This is like, if you've ever seen Boiling Point with Bridget Fonda, you guys, you have to watch it. Like it's an older movie, go back and watch it. But it's just, we see it all the time with men movies all the time, where here's a dude, he gets picked and trained for the CIA. Well, Boiling Point is that about a chick, and it's Bridget Fonda in it, and she's just like how they would pick all of these kids, just abortion, adoption, no family, yada yada, traumatized, and then it's just like they disappear into a tunnel and just get trained at a thing. And so your 10,000 hours, you can become very deadly.
Who's that one female super Black Widow or something like that? She's the same. I can't remember.
Yeah, and so I feel like in Spy World, if we're gonna play spy versus spy, if Thomas is said spy coming to the party, he doesn't get as far as Abbie as said spy. And so in Spy World, like, and I don't know, if you can be right next to the president, then he's the most amount of safe. So it's like she doesn't show her eyes. Her hat's all the way down the whole day. No one saw her eyes the whole day. This is all you saw. And it doesn't even look like her in the picture of her smiling. It was like, huh, Melania looks, everybody, like she's slaying, but this is a different look than we were expecting. And I saw people like, would you be able to look people in the eyes? Those people, like, fuck those people. And I'm like, this is something different. This feels like coded languages in fashion. We went from dark to light. White dress. I knew it was going to be a white dress. Very
It was
Masonic.
definitely like a power move. Whatever the hell was going on, it was a massive power move.
And to not cancel it, to like still do, even signing, like he signed a couple of EOs right when he gets back to the White House. He signs EOs until about 8 p.m. at night. And one of them is that during every presidential inauguration from here on out, the flag will be flown at full mast. And I just feel like that is a spell. Flag magic is real. And they use we all know Jimmy Carter was on ice more than the people coming over the border. And they just decided that day, state funeral, yada, yada. And then we'll fly the flag. I've been driving by every half-mast flag. What the fuck happened? And people will be like, Jimmy Carter died. I'm like, wasn't that like fucking a month ago? What are these flags doing? Like, get up. Wake up. Stop being sad about a
How
guy
long does
that
it take this
literally
dude
did
to
nothing.
die?
I know. So I just think that something about that, like, the weird ones he decided in that day. So then some politicians of certain states went and raised their flags up. I'm like, something is going on. It's like fuck you games. We don't know. We just think, yay, party parade, or oh, I hate it. I don't like this. Whatever thing, but there's something else going on. Bigger and more magic than everything that people could comprehend, I think.
Well, it's a new wave too that you can reliably communicate outside the masses. Like it's a lot harder to wiretap what flags are up and down, but you could be guaranteed that if let's say, in a maybe fantastical hypothetical here, but Trump could have some sort of satellites situated around to be able to scan every single flag in the entire country to see if they're at full mast or half mast, or and not as like an enforcement to care, but that those could be like these secret votes going in and out, right? Like, raise your hand if you want in on this. Maybe there's auctions going, right? So the counties that have their flags raised the longest, they're actually in these like crazy high bid auction scenarios, and no one really would know it because it's smoke signals, right? You'd have to kind of know what the language and the context is of even smoke signals to see what they are. And this would be an interesting way to communicate because all other like forms of electronic communication are easily tapped by anyone and everyone, right? It's not even like the military only. Now, some weird Chinese sort of like scam group might also be tapping your phone, but can they tap the satellites and read the flag masts and put all that together? It might be less feasible.
And maybe that old school way, like if we were to pass messages with pigeons, would be so much more cryptid now than anything we could think about
They
on a
still use
blockchain.
in the latest not I think in the Iraq war they had a lot, but in almost every single conflict they still use carrier pigeons, which blows my mind. There's entire divisions. You can join the military right now and join a carrier pigeon specific career field. It's probably very niche at this point, but you can specialize in that alone and just be in like a carrier pigeon enforcement team.
That's so interesting because I also like the dove that Tesla's holding and Trump. It feels like that's coded messages. But back to the flag real quick. If like we were all camps and we were in war and we couldn't communicate with each other, the way we would know each other was safe in a long distance would be to see each other's flag at full mast. And if something was like wrong, maybe we'd flip it upside down, or if somebody was injured, maybe we'd lower it to half mast, but there would be like a whole language that would go on around it.
I was just thinking in the military, I saw lots of people sending that message back and forth, showing each other their full masts.
I would assume. It does seem like I mean, if you're a homosexual man, why would you not be in the military?
They'd have to be mad covert because, like, it's so weird. Like, there's a straight gay and then there's like a gay in the military. So like everyone by default is straight gay. I mean, I'm sorry to break it to you, but being in the military is like one of the gayest things you can ever do as a guy. I'm gonna go and live with 60 dudes and share 5
Whoa.
showers
That's
with
what
them
all my
every
military
single
guy
day.
Submariners.
friends. They're like,
Submariners are gay.
you don't know gay
But there was like
chicken
a
like the
different
military.
breed. Like there was literally like one of the guys on our flight that would go into the shower and just like sit down and just like look into the showers as things were going on. And like I don't know, it was the weirdest thing that like they would just out themselves so easily, not in a bad way, but just like they weren't being straight gay. I don't know how else to describe that.
That before I went to boot camp, my friend's dad, he's like, I just want to tell you this. Somebody's got to look out for you. Watch out for the bull dykes. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, who says that?
It feels like prison in a way that you're like,
Yeah, I was like, what?
watch out for the bull
So
dykes.
anyway, I go in and there's girls who have like mullets and stuff, and I'm like, maybe, or maybe they're just from like some like Ohio or some shit. But
That is true.
then when I got out of
Wisconsin
boot
girls,
camp,
I was like, whoa, my gaydar went off, and they were like, oh, I'm just from Wisconsin.
yeah, and you're like, oh, that's why you have a really bad haircut.
We're
Okay.
all like this.
Well, Boston girls too mess up my gaydar because they're just like tough.
They are tough. The Boston and New York girls, I loved them, but they after boot camp though, that really was like, my mind thought everybody was straight, and then I was like, oh my gosh, there are a lot of lesbians in the military. What the hell? Like, I had no idea.
You were like sitting on the softball bench being like, oh my gosh, they're gay. That's
It's
why
real. Yeah.
yeah, it really is too. Like softball, I don't know what it is. It is the funniest. I think there's just all of the stereotypes. Some of them we just need to lean into. And like the lesbians at the U-Haul and the softball are real life things. And it's why they're so funny. But if
Yeah.
you think about it, take away the sex altogether. Any two women, think of how quick any two women would decide to do anything different than like two men would be like 8 years later. Should we move in together? And only if it was a financial reason, like, you know, how much money we could save here to put away in stocks for blah, 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 blah. Like it would be such a whole different planning. But girls are like, oh my God, we totally should have a big, you know, True Blood watch party and spend $500 on catering and do like girls are so like two women moving in together on the fast seems like, yeah, duh. It's one of the tropes. I feel like whatever your thing is out there, lean into the stereotype more and can we all start laughing about it again?
Yeah.
Let's
Since
start
you
owning
lost
them
that
again.
affirmative
Yeah, own the
action.
stereotypes.
Since you don't got that affirmative action anymore, lean into your stereotype. That makes me so fucking happy that an EO was signed that affirmative action and like all of the what is it DEI or what like
Yeah.
inclusive bullshit all that stops immediately. There's only two genders immediately. The idea that we're on a timeline that it has to be said
Yeah.
and fought about. There's only two genders is just backflips.
The fact that just speaking straight science logic was hate speech. You know? That's wild. Like,
I
what
know.
country was this?
Your kids were allowed to sit in a room with a grown adult and talk about their sexuality, and you weren't allowed to know about it in some states. Like your kids could have a whole nother life at school where they changed their pronoun and you weren't allowed to know. It was fine. But all these other adults were talking to your child about sex. That shit to me is like, and people are like, oh, but some of their parents at home don't teach them about sex for fucking good reason. Like for fucking good reason. Like you didn't learn anything good in school from sex ed. And they
Well,
could
and
show
let's
you in biology and science just fucking animals fucking. Like, we don't have to do all of this other stuff. I don't need Mrs. Elmtree to stand in front of me and put a condom on a banana while we all like take on this trauma together. It's so wild. And then go
and what
sit in
don't
them
you learn
take a
from your peers? You learn a lot,
it's
period.
silly by the time we're doing that.
Yeah.
Most of
Everyone
the time.
knows by the time that you're doing that. So I
But
think
it's shame.
typical is like 10th grade when they finally like tell you about sex.
10th grade. I mean, I'm almost positive I had my first sex ed class in South Florida in 5th grade. It wasn't like, here's how it works, but it was like, here's how babies are made, and this is what a
Right.
vagina looks like, and all like that was in 5th grade.
They
And
did
then we
us.
had a 6th grade version, and I think by 7th grade, that was about as most advanced as it got. But by then, like everyone had seen pretty much anything you could imagine on video and magazine and whatnot. So
Well, they
at
did the
that point, it
same
was like
thing
the
with
boring
us.
version.
Yeah, like 5th grade and 6th grade, it kind of like, but they explained how conception worked and that, sperm was one thing and then, the egg and all of that was in the mother, but they didn't explain how it got there. We all knew, but like they couldn't explain the act of sex to you. So,
I would
and
have
then,
loved, I mean, maybe not, but I mean, it would have been fun to just be like a 5th grader, being able to ask questions of like the woke version of this. Like, how do men get pregnant? Like, just like something like that.
What the hell? Even that stuff, like the amount of like there is a literal they took away a real gun emoji and gave us a squirt gun and gave us a motherfucking pregnant man.
and why do you think we have
They wanted to make
Kids who
sure
are
that
looking at furries all the time and shit.
they didn't want the trans emojis shooting themselves, so they had to
And
take away
Thor.
their guns in emoji world.
They had to let it like, here's a pregnant man. What the fuck? What the fuck? That
Vor
is
belly.
like, I don't know. I feel like everybody should write Apple and say, what the fuck? And then suggest an emoji that should be there. A pregnant man? Good grief. Like, there's got to be a better way. I wish there was emojis like, I just sent you a bill and it had a pin by it and it just said EO on it. Like, I did put out something, I don't know who posted it, but it was like, I heard Trump signed an executive order to tell everyone how gay you are. And I just feel like, God dang, for real, when you look up the executive orders, there is so many. I don't know who's spent any time. Maybe I'm just a nerd.
I've been doing a little bit here and there. I've been actually busy.
I'm trying to
at work and-
remember them, you guys. So if I'm missing any of them, feel free to shout them out. So we're at the sword dance, and then he signed executive orders, and then we kind of also had Trump and Melania release coins on Solana that gummed up the entire crypto system for probably 24 hours. And Trump's coin got to like within the top 20 biggest cryptos on the planet. And it's just sitting there at like, I don't know, probably like a little, I have no idea what it is, but I'm guessing like a little over 30 billion market cap.
Probably.
his-
It's staying pretty steady. It's not at like I don't have
No,
as
it's
much
at, like,
money in my
$30.
wallet as I did the day before the inauguration, but
Yeah, so then that's going on. The Melania one, there was kind of like people were pissed on the internet because they were like, dang, imagine if Melania didn't release her coin because the Trump coin was like ripping, like the chart was insane. And then it had like this little dip and then it was ripping again. And then Melania released her coin and everyone was like, what? I can get so much more of this coin and it's going to do what the last coin did. Free money. And it didn't. But Melania ain't no Trump.
no.
And so then the other thing that happened was new fires all over California that just popped up. And I guess also Trump is going to open the water up from the Pacific Northwest. And he's like, there's enough water for 1,000,000 years. That's weird stuff too. Like this, like, oh, it's forever. It's flowing. I'm like, is the North Pole like Rupa Negro? Is it open or something? Like, are the like whatever big thing that we've been under? It feels like somewhere it lifted, and there's a buzz in the air. I don't know if it's good or bad yet, but I feel like everybody feels it. Everybody's like, it's just extra. And maybe it's part of the brainwashing because we were all locked in our houses for so long and all of our senses were kind of shut off, including our sense of smell and taste. And now we're being like inundated with flavor.
I never lost my smell or taste.
Lucky
I
you.
did.
I did.
Did you, Chaney?
Yes, and I thought it was a fucking conspiracy. I was like a person, like you could probably find me on 10 episodes of like old Project Chaney where I'm like, yep, if you plug your nose, you can't taste. This is how it works until I was eating like tuna tataki or something. Tuna, like I was eating some fucking raw
Yeah,
sushi.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all of a sudden I was like, I can't fucking taste this at all. Like, what?
What about like wasabi or something? Would
Dude,
you
I
just-
could pour vinegar on my tongue. I could lick a lime. Like when I first lost it, I was like, is it gone? And I had friends that had lost theirs for like a year. So I was like, oh, am I ever going to get this back? I feel like it probably took me 2 months to get it back. You guys probably went through the journey with me on this show.
Yeah, we did.
Where I was just, it might have been the time you were off.
Does hot
no,
sauce
you weren't.
work? Did you try like hot sauce and
All
stuff?
of it. I couldn't taste. Sometimes I would get like like heat,
The tingle
but
of it, but
yeah,
yeah, you don't get the flavor.
like it's even like you could just drink vinegar. It's
Yeah.
so weird, and you'll get the heat of like vinegar, but like the things I tried to do to amp my taste buds back on.
It's
No,
so
I was like,
frustrating.
how did I
Like
know you could drink
fermented
vinegar?
cuttlefish.
Fire cider. It's because fire cider used to get me, but ever since COVID, I could just knock a little fire cider back.
It would have been a perfect time to like do a live stream where you just eat the world's like grossest foods, but you pretend that you still have your taste and smell, so you could like react to it. But what is the weird like fermented shark fin that the Scandinavians like bury underground and then dig it back up?
Oh yeah, where it
We ought
becomes
to
like
do like super fruit one night, like when we're all together and do like
I have
eat
some.
weird things. Do you really? I've
Mi
never tried
Yeah,
miracle
it. I
fruit,
really want
right?
to.
Miracle fruit.
Yeah, miracle fruit.
miracle.
Miracle fruit.
I don't know if I got sent it. I feel like I got sent it when I had chemo because it's like you get a weird taste. So people brought me all the weirdest stuff. But I know somebody with one of those trees. It's not a good, I don't know if it's not a great thing to grow in Florida or it takes forever for the tree to grow. But I knew a guy that had one of those miracle fruit trees. And if you ever have a lemon with after a miracle fruit, it is the best citrus I've ever had. And you can't mimic it. You can only have like somewhere they need to genetically modify. No, but somewhere they need to crossbreed and put the miracle fruit with the lemon and then it's like
I think
they
they could
can't
help
mimic it.
with diabetes so much with this miracle fruit because they could still eat the sweet of it all without ever amping up their blood sugar.
And it is unreal. The type of sweet that the miracle fruit does is like something that it's not a sugar. It takes away bitter or sour. And so it's like it amplifies all the flavor of everything that isn't a bitter or sour. And so it's just I can't explain it unless you've tried it, but I think you can order them in packs
They come in like
now
pills
online.
too. Like you just let a pill dissolve on your tongue, and it's basically the extract of that miracle fruit.
Have you tried it, Thomas?
I did, yeah. We did like one of those weird tasting party things. But I was a little weirded out because I don't think you're supposed to eat that much like lemon and lime straight up. Like
Right.
part of the
All this.
reason why citric acid is so like it doesn't feel or taste great is I think part of your body like this is straight acid. This is not great to just
But
put directly into
did you know
my
that
gut.
lemon and lime, of all the citrus, orange is the only one that is acidic. Lemon and lime, all of them are alkaline.
And grapefruit too.
Yeah, grapefruit's alkaline.
But it's not, it's acidic outside the body. But for some reason, when citrus hits your body, if you have nothing else in your body, if you have something else in your body, the acidity will do something weird. But that's why they say all those old people that lived until they were like a fucking 100 years old in like the 70s, 80s, and 90s, it's because they all had grapefruit in the morning and it would immediately alkaline their blood.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, my
it's like,
grandparents used to eat that. I've tried. Like I figured maybe when I get older, like I would like grapefruit. Oh, it's just so
Oh, it's so good
disgusting.
if you pour sugar on it, but I'm sure that gets rid of the alkaline effect because sugar is acidic.
I'm going to say it aloud right now because I just feel like big things are happening. We're going into the age of Goldie Hawn. So I feel like I want to bring like the citrus industry back to Florida in a big way. I think it's all fucking bullshit. I think we have too many Chinese companies in our shores and they did weird shit to our fruit to give different parts of the world a leg up in an industry that our state grows the best of the thing. Like your state grows the best of something, but other places, because of money, took out that. And I think somewhere in alchemy, certain things have to come from certain places. And that means they'll be better for you that way. And or places by you. And so I'm just saying it. Maybe it's like a goal over the next 20 years. And I mean, it'll probably take me billions of dollars to raise, but why not? Why not? There's money in it. I think like orange groves are so romantic and bees. And you guys don't even know the state I grew up in and how gorgeous it was with all the
That's
orange groves everywhere.
that's always kind of been my dream that if I ever had a charity, instead of like donating to charity, I would do an urban orchard where you grow a bunch of fruit trees and stuff, and maybe even gardens, but like community gardens, but more along the line of the urban orchard where you come in and work for the day and you can take home, baskets full of fruit or whatever. So
I like this. How about all of the roadways, all the trees you see? How about we make them female trees again so everybody can just the reason
yeah,
they don't want it is because they're like, oh, because it leaves a mess and who wants to clean up the mess? Well, that's what they say. They don't want us to eat. They want
yeah,
us to spend money at the store. But I just am like, think of how many trees we have in places that don't have fruit. It's the same. It's like how many yards we have that grow grass and we pay to water it and feed it and fertilize it and mow it and it doesn't provide anything for us. It's wild.
Maybe
That's
I was
stupid shit
spoiled because of thinking back, growing up in Florida, but we had grapefruit, lime, tangerine.
everywhere.
We had oranges. We had mango, papaya, avocado, banana. Like all that was just in the backyard. You could just go out and grab. And even when I was in upstate New York, we would just go into the cornfield and just pull corn directly out of the field and just eat it right there. You would check it for a worm, but you would just straight up eat it. You don't have to. A lot of people don't realize you don't even have to cook corn.
yeah. You
Most of
don't.
the time, you
It's
like
so
cook
good
it is just
cold,
because you don't know where
Hmm.
the hell it came
fresh.
from. But if it came from in the field in the back of the house that you don't spray it with anything crazy, you're not putting Roundup in there, you would just pop those things out and eat it. So like, yeah, it was weird growing up and just like if you wanted a snack, you just went and picked the snack
Yeah, like
outside.
people
Done.
always say, and like, oh, you guys like Generation X kids, and you can't fuck with them because their parents would kick them out of the house at like 9 a.m. and they didn't have to come back until like 7 p.m. And then people would be like, "What did you guys do out there all day?" Well, we ate and drank because there's hoses everywhere. Like, how many hoses
Yeah.
did you drink out of the house that you didn't even know the person at all?
Yeah.
You were just like, and
Yeah.
a little water, and I'm
Sorry.
out. Like you didn't even think twice about it. And I feel like we just there was trees everywhere and sometimes you had mean neighbors, but it was kind of fun to be like, let's go
Oh
steal
yeah.
one of Mrs. So and
Oh,
so's
it's so
grapefruits or
fun.
one of her fucking oranges or one of her things. But then there was so many other ones where you could just pick your heart's desire and we were all nasty little sticky kids just covered in sand and orange juice. But it was just so
And orange
fabulous. I
juice.
miss it. I know, it was just so much orange juice. That's why I have it as my emoji on most of my things is the orange. It's the most Florida of Florida things to me is that orange.
Those do give you those sticky fingers though, from like peeling them open with your hands and like pulling all the veins off. Yeah.
Do you remember the first time in your life you got one of those plastic straws that you gorge into the orange and then you could just drink it?
You could like mash it up a little bit. Yeah.
And, I there's this other place in town, there's 2 places. Anyone who ever comes and visits my town, I'm like, "And you know what we're gonna do today? Go get an orange slushie." But there's a place in my town that it just turns, like, fresh orange juice and grapefruit juice, and it's my favorite orange juice in the world. And so you can get, like, a slushie of it, and I could go get one right now. And I just love that I can get it year round of, like, fresh orange juice. But there's just so it used to be farms everywhere. Like, we had grove parties. Like, just in the middle of the groves, the cops didn't mess with us, it was just all of us, everybody would park and turn their headlights on, we'd have music out in the middle of the grove, but now it's like, those are all gone, they're housing development.
That's what they did to, like Riverside and everything in Southern California, because it used to all just be orange groves and it smells so good. I love the smell. Orange blossom is like the best smell, but it's all developed now.
That's probably bees where they're like, "Oh, all the bees are dying," and it's like,
Yeah.
"'Cause there's nothing to pollinate."
Yeah. Y'all are cutting them down and building houses and strip malls.
So I do think that, like, those are things that even I knew a lady and now it's a very normal thing. But in Portland, there was some laws made that if something was a thing for any certain amount of time, it had to stay that thing forever. And it was a short amount, like if you made a community garden and it stayed a community garden for 7 years, it had to stay a community garden forever. And so there was all this like now I don't know what's going on with Portland, because of everything lockdowns, but there was a time that every single empty lot, every single empty wall was like beautifully painted. And then there'd be these urban farms all over town and you could take whatever and you were asked to volunteer. but not everyone did. Sometimes people just, and not everyone that worked there took anything. Like it just
Yeah.
all balanced out. And people would donate tools, and then people put up those little libraries like grab a book, take a book, leave a book, blah blah blah. But it just, they became these little community hubs all around this really big city. And I'm like,
That's what I want to do.
and she was so brilliant about it. She took the idea urban, she liked the initials of the UFC, so she just called it Urban Farm Collective, so she could steal that logo and put it on all of her stuff.
Oh, smart. That's like Stone
Yeah.
Temple Pilots.
Yeah, she was she was ex-military, and she was a bull dyke. No, she wasn't a bull dyke, but she was a lesbian. But anyways, I just
Watch
think
out for
this
them bull dykes.
idea and these kind of where we feel hopeless, but in our small communities, and this is how we should think of outside, we really could, like in my pretty conservative town, they were like, we don't want the kids skateboarding in here. And then the right parents came up, you don't want the kids skateboarding, give them a place to skateboard. So now there's like a city funded skate park.
Yeah.
And they keep it up and they do all the things. And I'm like, in this little conservative town. So I think that kind of stuff, you can make a difference. And it only takes 2 parents to call these idiots that are sitting in these positions that run your town. People will be like, oh my gosh, our park's been locked down forever because of COVID. We can't go in the park without masks on and COVID. It took 2 parents to call and all of Miami parks opened up. It's just, you're only calling a human being that they just want to be a populist.
Yeah.
And so you just tell them, bitch, I'm pissed. And because nobody else is, the online's fake, but a real phone call, it changes everything. A real knock on a door. And so I don't know. I think you can change your town pretty quickly. And most people, the old money, that the boomers, that they have stuff, they have their retirement, they have all the things laid out. Most of them, they love with their money. They want to show everyone, look what I donated to. Look what I did. Like, look at
Yeah.
this kind of, it's their generation. And so I feel like you can do these things and get a lot of it funded by a lot of those people. They want to do it. And they're like, here, I'll write a check.
Yep.
You're like, we don't take a check, but no, I don't know. I'm optimistic. I have to be.
I'm more pessimistic on that because as soon as I start seeing the philanthropy angle, because so much of philanthropy is really just a way to like bribe your way into academia or to bribe your way into
Yeah.
getting like certain
Lobbying.
awards or like tracks or degrees, and like it's basically investing in a pedigree, and it's you can't do it properly unless you donate money or you do this
Like
in like a philanthropic way. But then
Congressional Medal of Freedom, is that what
yes,
Bill
it's
Gates
no
just got?
longer about the philanthropy. Now it's about like not just tax write-offs, but you're investing in this. It's like, your dad that buys the gymnasium for the university, and now you're guaranteed to graduate from there, even if you're the worst student
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
It's kind of that version, just outside
You're
of the regular
grandfathered in the
academic.
fraternity, or you're automatically getting a DL.
What's that word called? Nepotism.
Nepotism.
I don't know why. That was a weird word when it came into the zeitgeist for it to stick in my brain. Took a
It's
while.
such a weird word.
Yeah, it doesn't seem nepo because I kept hearing nepo baby. That's how I first heard it, and I was like, "Dang, that sounds
That's the
fucking
real
harsh."
patriarchy. Like not the weird woke anti-patriarchy and men run everything, but nepotism is literally I have power, I have a son, my son now has power. It's the opposite of meritocracy would be nepotism. It's where you just pass things down
Yeah.
because you want it to stay in the family.
Everything, like everything happens. You just
can't
got it
keep it
because
in
your
the pants,
daddy.
keep it in the family.
Yep, the fires. What else happened this week? The one thing, this is a weird thing, and the mRNA with the cancer thing. I was really trying to philosophically put myself in the shoes of dying still and what I would have felt about it if I was terminal and how I like, like, oh, specialized medicine just for me. This is intriguing over medicine that the world takes.
Well, especially, because it is enticing if it was a treatment, right?
Like a therapeutic or
Yeah, where you're like, oh, we don't have to chemo. We can just do this mRNA vaccine and it fixes the problem. But if it's preventative, then it changes the whole game and it makes it seem so
Isn't it
cringy.
curious then when Mel Gibson's like sitting on Joe Rogan being like, I had friends, like they had stage 4 terminal cancer. They took a little ivermectin mixed with blah, 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 healthy as a horse.
I've heard over and over again that it's very parasitic and that it's fed by sugars and acidity in the body. So
That's all I did.
yeah, alkalize your
I
body. You
completely
did, didn't you?
starved my body of sugar.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
completely alkalined my body.
yeah.
I didn't allow myself anything naughty. I ate more protein bars than any man in a gym. Like the idea, like, but it was just making me think of, and that attitude of hope of like, is there a chance is everything. And so I'm like, just because when has cancer treatment gotten better or changed in any amount of time of our lifetimes? If anything, it's just gotten worse
Yeah,
and worse, and cancer everywhere. It used to just be like one kind. And then I remember when like Katie Couric realized there was butthole cancer and that became a thing. And then
Farrah
everything
Fawcett.
has a pink fucking ribbon so they can remind us all the time to cut off our tits before we get cancer. It's like inundated with cancer from everywhere, but really it's probably all just the byproducts of them.
Yeah.
Like it's the chemtrails and the things. So then it's like, how about you guys stop poisoning us?
Thank you. Yes.
How about that?
How about no? How about we don't stop poisoning you?
You want to know something so crazy? We were just talking about it too. How if you take grapefruit, it alkalines in your body right away. And if you take grapefruit and boil them, which I would imagine is a very similar process, grapefruit peels of your stomach, you can make hydroxychloroquine.
Oh, interesting.
What, from boiling grapefruit?
I feel like the recipe for hydroxychloroquine is grapefruit peels and something else. Smart chat, please don't make me look it up. I know one of you probably just has the recipe and you'll be like, yes, it's right here. Tinka, 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 tinka.
Wait a minute, that's napalm. Come on, guys.
Hey. But yeah, I think it's just grapefruit peels and you boil them down and you can make your own hydroxychloroquine. And a lot of people were doing that during lockdown. So then it makes me think maybe Mel Gibson's onto something with like, oh, I knew a couple people and they blah, blah, blah. Cause I would say that, I definitely ate so much grapefruit until literally my body started to just puke after I put it in my body. Like, but so much grapefruit, like the amount of because of it, like fresh grapefruit. So I don't know. Curious, maybe Mel Gibson, maybe hydroxychloroquine. And then it would be really curious if billionaires that own the patent for hydroxychloroquine that wanted to give it away to the world for free or really inexpensive were killed in Canada again, Barry and Honey Sherman. And they happened to own hydroxychloroquine and they were murdered. Murder Inc. So
I'm
maybe
just
we'll find out about that too.
like you mentioned before, how Thomas Edison electrocuted an elephant to show how like Tesla's energy was dangerous. At some point, they're gonna show how boiling grapefruit will kill an elephant. So that's why you need to go and get your vaccine from Walgreens and not by boiling your own grapefruit.
If they kill elephants, I'm gonna kick their asses because they're so cute. What about
Oh
the
my
External
gosh, you
Revenue
guys,
Service?
I lived on pineapple too. I probably stayed alive for so long, honestly, even with an exploded spleen. Abbie can attest to this, maybe Thomas too, but I definitely know Abbie. Nobody eats more fruit than me.
No, you really
Like,
do eat
it
a lot
is
of fruit.
insane the amount of fruit I always have cut on the ready in my house. Like, it has to be that way. It is not right. And so it's like winter outside, it's so cold. Some of my fruit, it's like, it's not happy at my vegetable stand, but I am lucky. I have so many vegetable stands.
She was feeding me pineapple at Bohemian Grove.
I'm fanning you.
Yeah, Chaney just pops up with like a fruit spread.
Yeah.
Yeah. It also, the most sick I ever was, which it was my honeymoon. It was the first day after my honeymoon, and I just got shithoused, and we were in Mexico, and the next day, and we had to go to one of the pyramids and, like, get a tour of the pyramid, a long tour with like, a private tour, and just my group for as part of my wedding thing, and I was so fucking hungover, and had to take a car ride out to the middle of Mexico and out to one of these pyramids, who knows, and they pulled over at a rest area. I was so green, and I'm glad I wasn't the only one car sick, but I get car sick anyway, and we got out at the rest area, and there was just this old Mexican woman there, and she just had a platter of pineapple cut, and she had chili powder, and she was like, "Oh," she looked at me and she was like, "Oh," like, almost she was telling me, "You look like shit." And I was like, "Oh," and she's like, "Take this." And I was like, "No," because I thought immediately, if I put this in my mouth, I'm gonna yak. And I'm not I didn't think I was gonna like chili with pineapple, like chili powder.
Oh, it's so
And
good. Yeah.
dude, it was like she gave me like I was Popeye and it was spinach. It was just one piece of pineapple, one triangle of pineapple dipped in this thing. It was like, oh my gosh, I don't have a hangover anymore. I'm all the way better. It was so wild how quickly it made me feel better of like, I'm not going to throw up at all. It was like whatever voodoo she did on that piece of pineapple, it made me like a pineapple eater with chili
Riggs,
powder. I have so
I think
much
because your body's
tahini
just
in my
like,
house.
I'm gonna use all of this.
Yeah, I loved it.
Riggs in the chat said Chaney had to crap behind the pyramid.
It's so crazy. They don't even let you. It's
No,
so
she was
weird.
hungover. She wasn't drunk.
I had nothing inside my yeah, I had nothing inside my
She's
body.
drunk. She might have had to crap behind the pyramid.
But I actually they make it a weird thing, like, please don't take rocks from here, people, because everybody takes stones and stuff from every monument, so they have to put up
Oh yeah,
signs sometimes at these monuments, almost like Hawaii, where they took so much from
Alcatraz too.
Hawaii that they're like, "You're gonna get a curse."
Yeah, Alcatraz. It's like you can get prison time.
Yeah, that's right. I feel like there's Alcatraz would be the coolest private party. Like if we were really Illuminati, that's where I'd have everybody fly their helicopters in
How
to
much could it
Alcatraz.
cost to own Alcatraz?
I don't know. It's
Let me
so
look.
run down though. That's the thing. Is
Do
like,
we want Alcatraz or Lisa Frank Factory? That's what you have to decide.
ooh, Lisa Frank Factory. Let's do that. That sounds so fun
Buying
and psychedelic.
Alcatraz. But
Alcatraz is neat, but
I think throwing a party at Alcatraz was the plot line of one of the seasons of Silicon Valley, and they actually went broke trying to throw a party there.
I can just find tours. It's not
like
for
the fire
sale.
festival or whatever that was called. That guy, whatever happened to that? He was like trying to plan part 2 of that. Did you guys see that?
The Fire Fest.
Yes.
Who was the rapper that he was involved with? Was it
Ja
I
Nelly?
think it's
Rule.
Ja Rule.
Ja
Yeah.
Rule. I'm so racist. Yeah, Firefest seemed like kind of a great idea on paper, but this is the stuff that I feel like a lot of the times I've just noticed in my life planning stuff with people who have never had jobs is they forget about all of the things like toilets. Like they
Yeah.
don't think about all of the amount of bottles of water. Like no one changes it.
You,
Like
you
their
just have
sheets.
your maid get that for you. What do you
Yeah.
mean bottles of water?
Yeah, like their sheets are just changed every day. They don't have
Yeah.
to ever do laundry. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh, where are these other people? They'll just have a tent. It'll be fantastic. And so, in a weird way, with all like crypto and everything and scams and whatnot, Firefest was almost like the first shitcoin.
Yeah.
It was like all these people paid in. But I think the funny part is the fall guy was that girl. They end up making the fall guy like that Russian chick that movie was made about? Like where she talks in this really weird voice like this. You don't know what I'm talking about at all?
No, I thought it was
Effie?
like a
Is her name
dude
Effie?
that fell down on that one.
Effie, Firefest. I feel like the movie was made about her. I don't know. I don't even know where to begin. I can't look at it right now. This is the one part why I'm bad to have a conversation and also try to look stuff up is because I feel anxiety. And I'm like, I can't do it right now. It's not that important, you guys.
It's not that
I'll figure it out
important.
on Netflix and I'll.
Yep.
But yeah, I knew they made the documentary about it too. But all those people in the Bahamas, it was probably just all a waste. So you didn't pay attention to David Copperfield's island or Lenny Kravitz's island. The Bahamas is weird.
Yeah, it's one of those cases where the thing that you're hearing about right now, it tells you more about the things you're not hearing about.
It is kind of interesting. I'm curious. I want to see the reaction. Like everybody kind of in Hollywood, where have they been? Everybody in Hollywood. Like, doesn't it usually seem like the paparazzi in Page 6 is giving us like updates all the time of what's going on? I feel like
Yeah.
there hasn't been any juice.
Well, they're
Well,
waiting, right?
their
Well, there's
houses are
not
burning
going to
down,
be
right?
any juice in Hollywood pretty soon because Mel Gibson's in charge.
And
Ooh.
John Voight. And one more.
Sylvester
And
Stallone.
Sly. And so Sly Stallone had that Q hat on way back when the world went
Yep.
crazy and they were like, he put a picture on his private jet and then people were circling a picture, somebody in the background of one of these pictures. I'm gonna maybe have to look at his Instagram again. But I feel like I don't remember if they were saying this is Carolyn Bessette or this is Princess Diana. But I remember there being a big deal about Sylvester Stallone in back then, and he had a hat on, and it was a Q with, and he's like, "That's my airplane."
I really thought you commented on it and he liked your comment. Or
I
was
think
it?
so too,
I
and
think it was you,
I think
and
it
I
was a
swear it
big
did
deal for
happen.
me
It
at the
it was
time, where I
huge.
was
We
like,
were
"I
like,
think
"What?"
Sylvester Stallone just liked my
He
comment," because
did.
I said like, "Oh, is like Rocky telling
Yeah.
us he's part of the Q team?" And it was like something like like I don't remember what it was at all. I
It
probably have it on
wasn't
my.
totally obvious. It was something you had to look at the picture to see, and then you commented something about it, and he was like, he liked it. Like you were right.
We're gonna have to go look at this post right now.
Yeah.
I was like, "What's that guy's name again?" Sly. That would be so funny. Oh my gosh, it's probably so far down. How many years back was it?
Are we talking an
gonna.
actual? It was a hat that just had the letter Q on it.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was just like him sitting on his airplane. You can actually I can pull the picture up easy on the internet. Like, I was just seeing if I could go and pull it up easy off of his page because I do think I commented on it.
It was on Instagram.
Yeah, that's where I'm on. I just don't know. I have no clue what the date was. Let me look over here. Stallone Q hat. Oh, it's like, let's see if it pulls up
He kind of
here.
would have to be Q, right? Since Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of went like blue anon, then Stallone would have to go QAnon because they've kind of always been these like opposite ends of the spectrum, even if just for Hollywood reasons.
Can we scroll these comments? Look at Like by Chaney in Wonderland.
Yeah.
But I wonder, for those incredibly inquisitive individuals, let me state unequivocally that the Q on this hat stands for Quantum of Solace, the name of the boat I was on, not anything else. Okay, relax. So, folks, the moral of the story is enjoy your lives and let other people enjoy theirs. So keep punching. But
TikTok.
okay.
At the end.
December 5th, 2021. So it must have been right before this because that's not the official post.
No.
That's the one
It was
after because he
smaller.
had to
It was
make a comment because everyone was like, "Oh, Sly's fucking Q,"
yeah.
and people were like zooming into his glasses. I'm like, I don't remember, but
There's like a gun pointed at him.
yeah, original. Let's see if the whole picture is on here, not the one of him zoomed in. The internet cut everything else out except that one, but I can find it on his page now that I know the date. December 2021. Okay. I have some. He posts a fucking lot, you guys. It's so crazy. He's a 70-year-old man.
I feel like I should follow him. Let's follow Sylvester Stallone.
I know. I have to follow him too. Following. You guys make sure you go over and follow Sylvester Stallone. And if you follow him, like, let's pick an emoji right now that we all harass Sylvester Stallone. The glove, the red glove. Just go over there and write, go get him, Rock. But write Rock with a Q. Oh, shit. I hope Layla's okay.
I know.
I have not.
She's out there fighting the good fight.
Oh, I found the original photo. I should have looked it up on the computer. But okay. In the back is this. And that book is Every Last Secret. Somebody's reading it in the back, and people are like, that's Princess Diana. And people, like, it's so funny because all the comments, people are like, it's go time. Like, like the amount of shit, and people, like, in it, all the first posts are like, that's Lady Di, Diana? Like, it's pretty crazy. So I wasn't, and he must have liked more than just mine. And everyone was saying too, it's funny because it's a Q hat inside of a storm. So yeah,
Damn.
that was all the. But relax, everyone. It meant
It's
nothing.
just quantum something.
He's just the it's
name
just
of his ship.
quantum something, and he's just the
Just my
fucking
yacht.
yeah. What's his new mayor of Hollywood or whatever he is, the ambassador, a czar. Fucking Rocky. Rocky was always. Oh yeah, let's talk about Hail Elon. It made me think. I thought of Rocky, which
like,
made me
I
think
hate
of
this
Sylvester
algorithm.
Stallone, and then I saw Sylvester Stallone immediately in my head. Like, one of the first images I have of him is in his tidy whities hailing Hitler. Not actual Hitler's not in the room, but I mean he's hailing. If anyone watched Elon, I'll give my take on that. He really was like, I'll give you my heart. Like, I give you my heart. Like, he was so like amped and excited. It was such a hard hail. It is.
He wasn't half hailing.
So hard. Yeah, it wasn't a half hail. He didn't half-ass his hail. But then hail, his people, like, the behind that is actually a really good, if let's say he did, which he didn't, let's just say he was, like, the meaning behind hail was a good thing, right?
He's taking it back. What's so wrong about that? He's taking it back.
I think, is it little mustache time soon? Like, are we about to have the fashion trend? But didn't it mean something like because like you know how namaste means, like, the spirit in me honors the spirit in you, like Hael meant something like kind of like big up yourself.
Yeah, it was something good.
And I will also say this, just in my little witchy magic thought. It seems like it would be a more powerful gesture. And they are decapitating us a little bit by not allowing us, like, oh, keep your arms down, everyone. Like, don't make a fist. Like, it's like Howard Stern logo or every resistance logo or everything is just closed energy. But this seems like it would be more of I'd be shooting my magic at you, or good or bad or indifferent. But what the fist? I don't know.
Well, also the difference between I can't remember, and it's not the Roman salute, it's some other guy's name. It came in like the 1880s or something, the Halsey salute, or but that if you believe in that Carlos Castaneda sort of the OA, if you believe in like OA energy, right?
Yeah,
There is
like
a world
mudras.
of difference between putting your hand over your heart and then reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, or putting your hand over your heart and then like releasing the energy that built up out into the rest of the world. Those two things, at least in a Carlos Castaneda OA sort of way, they couldn't be more different. They're on opposite ends of how you're using your energy. One of that
Yeah.
is like keeping it all to you, and the other one is like putting it all outside.
Because even like it's funny you brought that up just because today, like I normally when they do the flag salute stuff, I'm usually in my office, so I don't have to do it. But I was in a classroom today, so I had to do, pledge allegiance and all that. And then we do the Oklahoma flag salute, which you put your hand up like this, and then you do the Oklahoma pledge. Well, like Castaneda says, you should never have like a weak hand. It should never be cupped like this. Like in supplication, like it should always be really straight and firm. So I was like, you know what? We're doing it like that because that's a power. That's power. Was like, I ain't begging for nothing. Give it to
Yeah.
me.
It is kind of a different but they even in meditation and stuff, they say when you hold your hands in different kinds of things on your knees or up, like each finger has its own energy. And even I know it seems so crazy because you think of all of us naturally stimming when we were kids, or at least me, one of my weird little kid things, I would be like twisting all my fingers together. And there's some like real powerful like hand gestures that are like this kind of shit where you're like your little kid already knew these like mudras and stuff that they're like, this will change your energy to this.
It was
And
like
you
like throwing gang signs. They're actually casting like Harry Potter spells on each other.
yeah.
I was doing this one earlier because I saw this thing like only few percent of people can touch their pinky to their pointer finger. I was like, yeah, we magic.
I wonder if it's green eyes.
Maybe.
I know that's where I was like, Abbie, how did the military? I always just assume like my green eyes. I feel as far as eyes go with the stuff that we're surrounded with, I feel more inhibited than all the other eye colors. Like it doesn't feel beneficial to me that I have green eyes. Like the sun glare, fucking like whatever spray and all that weird shit. It's like have my friends where they're like, "Oh, I never wear sunglasses anywhere." And I'm like, "I'll just sit. I won't be able to see you. Like my eyes will shut all the
Yeah,
way and I'll just tear, tear, tear."
dude. And I've been like I had to go get antibiotic eye drops because my eyes were all jacked up and they got better, but I don't know. I think it's the stuff they're spraying in the air because I'm like bloodshot as hell again.
Don't you think our eye color may like doesn't it seem like it'd be
Yeah,
way more important than they let us know though? Like all the brown-eyed people, you guys can see in this like kind of thing, and all the green-eyed people you can see in caves, and all the blue-eyed people you can look through 50 feet of water.
yeah.
You know, whatever thing. It just seems like somewhere where they're like protect your DNA, and in our DNA, like our eye color seems very specific, and how our eye color is not dependent on race or, creed or anything. It is like every single race can have every single eye color. And how big of a minority green eyes are on the planet. They're the smallest group of people on the planet.
Well, it's weird too because like I know I have really cool eyes, but I never get complimented on them. And my first boyfriend in high school, he told me he hated my eyes, that they weirded him out.
I have been told, and it hurts my like, I won't even be looking at somebody, like, I'm just thinking about something else, like, I'm just totally off in my own world, and I've even had little kids be like, "Gosh, what are you looking at?" Like, and I'm like, "I don't ever open my eye." I'm so high all the time, I never stare that hard at things. Like, but I just feel like there must be something about it that it just feels like my dad had a penetrating stare, but he had blue eyes. But I don't feel like I look at people like my dad sometimes, but I feel like, "Oh."
People will do that all the time. Like, what's wrong? And I'm like, "Or why are you looking at me?" I'm like, I'm actually not looking at you at all. Like, you're there, but I'm looking right
Yeah,
through you,
sometimes in
buddy.
my head, I'm like, "Oh, I'm not," like, I have my wife, she'll be talking to me, and she'll be like, "Blah, blah, 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 blah," whatever in front of my face, and she just
The
assumes
Charlie
because she
Brown.
yeah, well, she just assumes because she's in front of my face, like, telling me a thing that for whatever reason, my senses are turned on to her. So then I'll catch, like, one word in
Mhm.
everything that she says, and I'll be like, "Go back to the Honda." Like, I heard one word of "I'm sorry," like, and she'll be like, "What? Were you not listening?" I'm like, "It literally took that long for my brain to catch up." For some reason, like, I was staring at her. I didn't sometimes I ask myself, like, "Did you just, like, not pay attention?" And then I'm like, "You're not paying attention now."
I do it all the time. I hate when I catch myself doing that too. You're like, "Shit, what did they say?"
I think it's a
Didn't have to
superpower,
answer.
though. That's one that I've been refining my entire life of like not paying attention in school and not paying attention to your parents when they're yelling at you. But now it's like you can slip in and out of it, but maybe to the like to your detriment. Like you're explaining that happens to me always in like almost every single scenario in life where it's
Yeah.
like, oh, you've been talking for a while. Was I supposed to? Is there going to be like a pop quiz on this? Are you going to quiz me on what you just said? And if there's a chance that you're not, like, it's not me actively deciding to not pay attention. It just naturally happens because I've been doing it so long that I slip into it. But also there's like a weird part of me that knows to like, uh-huh, oh yeah, yeah. Like I can even respond without even knowing what the
Yeah.
hell the conversation is.
I feel like I got into a really bad habit. Like I never used to do that. And then my first husband would go on and on and on about like stuff I didn't care about at all. So I just had to like, yeah, cool, awesome, and then it became a habit.
If
Yeah,
it works though.
sometimes I wanna be interested, like, I'm interested in what like, I'm totally
Yeah,
here for it, in my brain, I'm like,
it's
"Where
just like,
are you?" And
yeah,
I also like, "What are you thinking about?" Literally fucking nothing, I don't know where
it
my
doesn't
brain
even
was just
matter. Yeah,
like,
why
I
weren't you
wasn't
listening?
here. Like,
Swimming
sometimes I'm
pool.
like
Yeah.
almost like whatever the projection of me, the driver that's up there is, like, not at the wheel, like, they had to go
Yeah,
on lunch break or
they
something
went,
and,
they ran
like,
to the bathroom.
like,
Yeah.
it's so weird. Oh my goodness. Do you guys have anything fun going on this week? And you guys, the chat's always a couple of seconds behind us. So if we missed anything that we have to discuss in the topics, shout them out. But
Do you wanna hit on the external revenue service, or are we like done with taxes and stuff?
I'm interested in that. Like, we'll no longer have an internal revenue service. We'll have an external
What?
revenue service.
I like this idea.
I do too. I'm like, I've
You
even
have to
heard
explain
people
this to me.
like part of you getting paid back a little bit instead like we're being fleeced on all of our taxes. And so they fleeced enough for a long enough time. And
Because you get
there's
taxed on both ends of everything, our income and then everything
Dude,
else.
I just started like a couple months in December. I needed to raise a bunch of money to get some stuff printed before Kickstarter sent all of like the comic money and stuff. And I actually had a whole bunch of savings bonds that my grandparents and my parents have been buying since I was a baby. Like literally like when I was born and in my year birthday and my second and third. And I had this like stack of like 12 or 13 of these different savings bonds. I cashed them all in, and it was probably worth like $1,200 after everything was said and done. It was way less than that on paper, but because you let them mature, and a lot of them were bought in like the early '80s, they had like quadrupled in value. Anyways, I got a freaking I didn't know this, but I got a tax form from Bank of America that you get taxed on your freaking savings bonds that you bought to keep the country like in perpetual war essentially. Not even that is tax free. I That blew my mind.
everything. That's why even I think the 401k bullshit where they're like, "Oh, get 401k, it's not taxed or employee matches it, blah 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 blah." No, it will be taxed and they're going to tax the fucking shit out of it. It'll be like nothing you've ever seen taxed before. And that's if you let it do everything it should and you don't see one of their penalties, which then that's a ton of stuff too. So it's like the 401k thing usually by the time that the 20 years of whatever it is of them they've washed the market of that before, like,
It's
it's not
it's
worth the
such a
money.
scam. You
It's
know how
the
you
worst.
know 401k like for me this is unequivocal proof that they're scams because I feel that the way that they're supposed to work is that you can put your money into these and you can decide if you're going to go with like an aggressive fund or like a money market fund or all this stuff. how come there haven't been any 401k aggressive funds where someone like 10x their money? Like you're the 401k that you put your money into, they just happen to buy a bunch of Bitcoin and Bitcoin exploded. And
Yeah.
now your 401k just happens to be like $100 million now, right? Because they got in there. That doesn't exist because
Ever.
what they do is they use the 401k accounts to sort of like give you your 3 or your 5% sort of growth to like make it seem competitive. But really they're making crazy moves and they're making crazy profit. They just don't put those ones under the 401k ledger. They put all of their like 3%er performers in those ledgers. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that this is an industry-wide cohesion where all of the insurance companies are doing this. They're all taking the money and investing it and getting mad money off of it, and then just hiding those investments from their sheets that they have to pay back into the 401k accounts.
And look at how many people, how many places, all the time, every disaster, over and over again, all the insurance companies drop them over and over. It doesn't matter the disaster. It's like the scam of insurance and whatever's happened to it. And I've said this, like, I'm old enough that I remember getting a check back from my insurance company every 3 months. Like, if they didn't spend it all and didn't use it to cover everybody's thing after all the things were done, you got a dividend check back. I don't know if it was a dividend check. It would have been like, I don't know, whatever. But it was always like exciting every few months. And that was with State Farm, big insurance company.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Something's so fucking amiss that there are things that used to happen that I'm like, dang, I hope we go back to the future. I hope
Yeah.
Biff found the sports almanac because whatever Marty fucking McFly did the time, he done fucked it up. So let's try another way. It can't be worse.
Yeah.
Like,
How much do you trust some dude that bangs his mom?
I know. In purple underwear,
Calvin.
just on his own. He just had purple
Calvin.
underwear on.
Yeah.
He was just wearing purple underwear and like little small purple girl underwear.
And then he appropriated Chuck Berry. Come on.
And then he OD'd on adrenochrome and look at him now.
Oh God.
Too soon? Oh,
This,
should
I
I
mean,
said
that was
that?
actually the plot of Life of Mikey. Was that what it was called? Life of Mikey. He was actually just eating Mikey. That was the premise of that movie.
That was the whole oh, Michael J. Fox. It was weird last week, like right before the inauguration and stuff. Did you see like the cast of Back to the Future had a reunion?
Oh no, weird.
Yeah, I thought it was such weird timing. Let me see. Back to the Future.
It's not a huge cast.
No.
It was like Elizabeth Shue and Michael J. Fox and Air here. DDD. You're like, oh, Biff on the fucking timeline.
Sure enough. And look at that fucking smug ass smile too.
Yeah, it just seems kind of.
He looks better than he did in Back to the Future too.
Right?
Yeah.
They kind
as
of
an old
nailed
man.
it though. They kind of
Yeah.
nailed the age progression for Biff.
They did. It's just that he was like fat and disgusting too. So
Yeah.
Yeah, he was kind of a prick.
yeah.
Manure. I hate manure. What a great fucking series. But you know what? Honestly, I fell off at 3. I can't stand 3. Like, there's something about it that triggers me. It's like unenjoyable at parts. I don't like Mary Steenburgen, Ted Danson's wife. She's bothersome. She's too much of the movie. Yeah, I don't know. So Back
I
to the
like
Future 1
3.
and
It
2.
wasn't my favorite out of all of them, but
Godfather 3. No, Back to the
I-
Future 3 is worse.
I love that he gets to play like video games and then he uses that in the Wild Wild West to like actually win like a sort of like a showdown. Although they don't really kill anyone.
Don't you feel like in a weird way with Michael J. Fox, like in our trauma, like we didn't have JFK, RFK, MLK, but we got our Superman fell off a fucking horse. And like that was
Maybe my Superman was always Dean Cain.
fair enough.
Okay.
Fair enough. It's probably your
Definitely
politics.
better looking.
Dean Cain's on the timeline. Dean Cain's hardcore MAGA.
Dean
It's
Cain
so
was hot.
But
Right, that
he
was
was
the New
hot.
Adventures.
The New Adventures of Lois and Clark.
Yes.
That was I watched that TV show too. I thought Terry Hatcher.
What happened to her?
I know. I bet we could get her an interview over. He's so coming in Secret Society of Good Guys, Terry Hatcher. People are like, who the fuck is Terry Hatcher? Most of our audience wouldn't know. They'd be like, she doesn't know shit about conspiracy. They'd be all pissed and disgruntled.
She's actually Q.
But Terry Hatcher's Q is my t-shirt. But Michael J. Fox, if you were in his situation with everything going on with technology, wouldn't you have a little bit of hope that maybe you didn't have about your ailments? Like, doesn't it seem somewhere with technology, like there should be a cure on the horizon for Parkinson's and MS and stuff?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's sad. When I was in therapy school, yeah, I had a lot of patience with that kind of stuff and like what your body does.
Bob
Jennifer,
Dole, right? Didn't Bob Dole have a version of that?
I know he was always holding a pen. Remember Bob Dole always had a fucking pen in his hand? Like his hand just naturally, I think from a stroke. So then he just put a pen in it. So he wasn't just talking all the time he looked like he was pointing with a pen. But that would be, if you were Bob Dole, you should put more fun things in your hand than a pen. Bob Dole with a dick in his hand. Well, do you guys have anything going on this week before we skedaddle to
I'm just
plug?
dropping a whole bunch of videos on my Patreon and YouTube members. Like I had a huge backlog when we were doing the Illuminati comic thing, and I just didn't have the time to edit all the things. So I spent this last week and a half just nonstop editing all day, every day. And now I think I've got like 10 episodes, but I just released them all early for Patreons. Like they're going to be airing, slowly releasing through March. But if you want to be able to hang out and watch all of the brand new stuff right now, it's all on Patreon. It's all on YouTube members. And I'm really, really planning on in Patreon, maybe announce this early next month, but I'm gonna start doing like these quarterly physical mail outs. So anyone that's on like a certain Patreon tier, I'm gonna send them comics that haven't been released yet, sticker packs that haven't been released yet, maybe some patches and stuff. So I'm excited. I'm excited to start doing more, bigger, and better.
I'm excited for. I feel like that is the one thing your audience gets. It's not just all the information that you like scour over in time. Like no matter what little facts people know or when they're in conversation, usually there's like so many thousands of hours of research that have gone behind it. And so it's awesome that they don't just get like dollar for dollar of that. You do send good merch out. It's not bullshit merch of like,
You should see the packaging too. It's so impressive.
I'm pretty proud of like how serious I take it. Like it might as well be showing up from like some high-end boutique,
Period. Yes.
I don't even know what name.
That's exactly
It's so
how
bougie.
my wife felt. And when I first got your very first package, I actually have the wrapper of it still. That she appreciated it so much because I was like, at first with the business, I'm like, you're going to spend that much extra money for those bags. It matters. You're going to spend that much extra money for those ribbons. It matters. And then what their box would come to you look like with little extras too, always of what it was like, always extras of what you got. And then when I first got your package, she was impressed. She was like, oh, this is done right.
Yeah,
Totally
I mean
done right.
that's always been my formula, is to like just give a shit. If you just give a shit, and if you give a big shit, you stand so far apart from everybody else that does things half-ass. Like my girlfriend tells me, you got to put your whole pussy into it. So that's been my mentality. Like every single package I send out, I put my whole pussy into it.
I
Hell
love
yeah.
it. I think that is great advice. I think that is I think going forward for 2025, I feel like so many things are just fast and half-assed. Just a little more intention goes a really long way.
This is what I
Everybody.
like about AI, though. Like, so many people are going to let their creative guards down. They're just going to let AI generate all the stuff for them. So I think that this is going to create a nice big gap in the market, in fact, where it's going to be so saturated. Anyone can make crazy memes and logos and all this. Now you have to have the symbolism and like the 20 or 30 years of research to back up all these wackadoo things that you're making, and that's going to be what stands out. And I feel like we've been stewing on this, right? Like, we've been training for this our whole lives.
Yeah, it does feel like kind of in creating anything in a picture, you're better at creating that thing verbally if you've experienced that thing. And so there's so much of the world we're headed into that your experiences of running around playing outside and being sticky fingered is far and few between for where we're going. But to really be able to like have that art created, you have to know that part of it and you can't fake it. Like you can't fake that part. So there is somewhere where we're going, and the AI, it is getting to a place where even the software is creating software so you don't have to know any coding anymore. Like the same way you would talk to Grok or you would talk to Chat GPT, you can now create a whole large language model of your own, knowing no coding at all. And then there is like latex masks that are coming out. Let me see if I can find that will attach to these large language business models and and these large language models, and they will like move their facial features to the thing you created. So you'll be able to get your own latex mask of whatever you want for whatever AI thing you create, and then now you're able to put it in physical form. And you don't have to know any coding. It's just how good all the software is getting. It's crazy stuff going on. I don't know. I'm so bad at Googling at this time of night. Yep, it's Google, everyone. The CIA already has everything I'm up to.
Yeah, don't matter.
Latex. Oh my gosh. I'm like, you guys, this is crazy. I forgot I could just show you. I just put in latex mask because my brain just short circuited at 3 a.m. And look at these masks that came up. And people don't think that your president could be a body double. And this is just what
Yeah.
I can order for fucking $17.69.
Girl, I've been watching
$19.
all those videos on TikTok of people
We're
wearing those
peeling their
masks.
faces off.
Yes.
I mean, Johnny Knoxville did this on a Jackass movie like over a decade ago, right? And
Yeah.
that was realistic as hell.
It was.
That's so crazy. That's so crazy. You so crazy. I just went through a little
Johnny
Tourette's.
Knoxville.
You so crazy, Johnny Knoxville. I was actually thinking one of the things Jackass, when I was thinking of brainwashing, Jackass was one of the things that came up in my brain, like file folder of ways I think we've been brainwashed over time. Like, I don't know what it was to implant to make every kid do those fucking things, but
Why were they so obsessed with sticking stuff up their assholes? Like, that's what I didn't get. Like,
I think that it's Krallian.
yeah.
Who was obsessed with sticking things up their
It's
asshole?
Jackass. I mean, like
Oh,
in the
right.
Jackass movie, they're like lighting off freaking bottle rockets up their buttholes and freaking
I mean,
putting
it's
a
right in the
car
name.
in their butthole and going to get like what's it called? X-rays and stuff, and it was all butthole stuff.
My favorite one by far was when they freeze the bee and then
His
they
name
tie
was
like a little
Steve
lasso around the bee's
O.
legs, and they like the bees like flying around in circles, and they have them on a string. I think this was one of the original CKY2K videos.
Those are, if you really know about those, it's kind of crazy how much like Bam did way before all that stuff. And then it's almost like they took everything that he had going on. I mean, there was also the Birdhouse videos, but it's like Johnny Knoxville's the agent they put with him. That's their handler. They didn't even know it at the time. And then
He's
Ryan
the
Dunn
one that
must
could
have
follow a script.
Oh,
Ryan
yeah.
Dunn must have
Yeah.
been asking too many questions. And they had to Ryan Dunn got Paul Walkered. Rest in peace, Ryan Dunn.
Uncle Vito, he also was asking too many questions.
He was asking too many questions about diabetes. It's crazy when people are like, "Oh my gosh, can you believe Bam turned out like that?" I'm like, "Yeah, look at his entire family." Like, yes, I can. Like his entire family was the whole scene. But some of those fucking things, I'm not even gonna get into it. Anyway, anyway, whatever. Who cares? I will be on with Emily Moyer on Thursday. I
Shout
don't
out
know if
Emily. She's one of the coolest people I know on the entire planet.
she yeah, shout out to her. I'm pretty sure it'll be live, so you'll be able to check that out over on Emily Moyer's channel, wherever that is, probably on YouTube.
Will you
And
drop the link then in Project Chaney Telegram?
I will. I'll
Okay, good.
remember to drop the link if it goes live, wherever you guys can find it. And I'm recording with Thomas this week, but I don't know if it'll be out. Who knows?
No, it actually will, because I'm behind on my Paranoid American podcast, so it'll probably be out like a week after we record it.
So yeah, I'm recording with Thomas this week, and I probably will be producing something for Lunatic Fringe and for Maha this week. I know Maha will be live on Wednesday, so
Awesome.
if RFK Jr. gets confirmed, maybe even sooner than that. But that should be the week ahead. Is Cash Patel actually going to get confirmed? Will RFK Jr. actually get confirmed? So these are like, it should be interesting. We have like a month of January, and then it's right up against the Super Bowl coming up in February. So I don't know. Rituals. Here we are.
Okay.
Thomas, do you have anything to say this week? Or plug? Or
No,
just
live long and prosper.
live long and prosper, you guys. Shout out to Layla. Make sure you guys go and protect her online. Unless it's her old account, just let it burn, let it burn. But we love you so much. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you Sunday. Make sure you turn your volume down. Okay. Love you. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Can you save us, Britney Spears? Can we be saved? God, why is Satan controlling the universe?
Here comes the world we used to think we knew is constantly exposing woo. Our possibilities come true. So what we do is call out to the good guys, good guys. Witches, widows, MAGA, mystics, entertaining cunnilinguist good guys. The forum of the quorum needs a secretive society to advance our philosophies intentionally, magically good guys. Conspiracy, sex, culture, making it's okay to change your thinking. Good guys, good guys, good guys, good guys. The world we used to think we knew is constantly exposing woo. Our possibilities come true. So what we do is call out to the good guys, good guys. Witches, widows, MAGA, mystics, entertaining cunnilinguist good guys. The forum of the quorum needs a secretive society to advance our philosophies intentionally, magically good guys. Conspiracy, sex, culture, making it's okay to change your thinking. Good guys, good guys, good guys, good guys.
You're still here? It's over.